Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto is the son of Egyptian goddess and got harem with Kurenai, Yugao other girls part 2. And subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description, so let's begin the story. 2 days later, Sakura was very tired as neither Sasuke nor Naruto had woken up yet. To make matters worse, she was damn sure she was being watched, but couldn't pinpoint who or what was watching them. She tried to keep herself awake, turned to Naruto and Sasuke and said, "Don't worry you two, I'll keep you safe and sound." She then turned back. In the bushes looking over her camp the sound trio could be seen. Zaku looking at Sakura snorted and asked, "That pathetic pink-haired thing is the only thing between us and the Uchiha?" Dosu nodding said yes, and she's tired, most likely from staying awake to watch over her teammates. Kin rolled her eyes as girls like Sakura were the reason real kunoichi were being looked down upon. She then asked, "When do we strike?" Zaku turned to her and said, "When we feel like it." "Now shut up." Kin sighed as this was what her team was like. Hell, this is what Odo was like, except in Odo she at least had Taiya to talk to. Dosa said, "We will strike when she nods off again. Until then we wait." The other two nodded. 3 hours later, Sakura's head bobbed as she nodded off. The sound team then decided to strike, as Zaku stepped into the field along with Dosu. Kin on the other hand was still in the bushes trying to stand up as Zaku had gotten impatient, and decided to once again beat her. She couldn't really defend herself as Zaku and Dosu both were stronger than her, and if she did try to defend herself Dosu would join in, and then it would only get worse. When she did manage to stand up and walk out of the bushes she was shocked to find Zaku fighting some guy in green who was shouting about the flames of youth. Dosu was trying to disable the traps Sakura had set up. She was a little amazed by the traps set up, as they were complicated and would injure the target badly. Lee, having come to help Sakura after finding her in distress, was now fighting Zaku with everything he had, knowing that Niji and Tenten were most likely on the way. He was right, as a few minutes later the rest of his team arrived, and soon a battle broke out between the two teams. Sakura, watching as Team 9 fought the Sound Genin, was sad as she was truly pathetic, as Naruto and Sasuke would have easily defeated the trio, specifically Naruto as he was strong. She was about to say something when a very foul presence washed down over the group. She shivered at how much malice she could feel coming from this presence, and turned around to find it was coming from Sasuke. Said emo Avenger stood up to reveal his face covered in strange flame-shaped black marks. Sasuke, gripping the power he was given by Orochimaru, said, "Yes, this is the power I need to defeat him." He then stood up, looked at the beat-down Sakura and asked, "Who attacked you?" Sakura, trembling, pointed at the Sound Genin. Sasuke gained a sick smirk as he said, "Perfect fools to test my new power out on." He then dashed towards Zaku, who had just defeated Niji, to Hyuga's shock. Zaku, snorting thinking that Sasuke was going to be easy, used his attack and watched as the Uchiha easily dodged it. It still headed towards Sakura, who was once again standing in front of the tree. Gasping, Sakura was ready to be hit, as she wasn't going to let Naruto be killed by this guy. Her eyes widened when Naruto appeared in front of her with the Kubikura Bocho raised. He with very tired eyes slashed down, and said, "Kenjutsu backlash wave." He then slashed down into the shock of the teams from Konoha, and the horror of Zaku slashed his attack and sent it right back at him, except this time it was visible. Zaku quickly switched places with Kin, who had been able to convince Tenten that they didn't need to fight. Naruto, spotting this, shocked Zaku when he made the attack change direction and head towards the black-haired Sound Genin. The attack then hit and both of Zaku's arms were removed. This caused him to scream out in pure agony. Kin was shocked as she was convinced Naruto's attack was going to kill her. Naruto, still tired, could tell that Kin was shocked and knew about her teammates beating her as his mother had informed him. Naruto, ignoring the glaring Sasuke, started down Dosu, who had defeated Lee, and said, "Surrender now, and you get to leave with your life. Don't and I'll be forced to kill you." Dosu snorted and said, "You." Naruto said, "I tried to be civil, remember that." Naruto then literally vanished, and appeared behind Dosu with the Sound Team's scroll in his mouth. Everyone gained wide eyes when Dosu literally fell into chunks of bloody meat. Naruto, having just ended Dog's life using Aljuin, attached it to his waist and said, "Ing idiot." Sasuke, now pissed, said, "Dobe, give me those swords, as only an elite like me can use them." Naruto, still tired from before, decided to just knock Sasuke out and let someone else deal with the arrogant Uchiha. He vanished, and the next thing anyone knew, Sasuke was unconscious on the ground. Naruto yawned, looked at Team 9, and ignored how Tenten was staring at the 4 swords attached to his waist. Walking towards the wide-eyed Kin, he asked, "What's your name?" Kin, gulping, said, "Kintsuchi." Naruto nodded and asked, "Your 2 former teammates treated you like shit, right?" Kin blinked and nodded. He then asked, "Your village doesn't see its members as family but as tools." She again nodded, and he asked, "Your only friend is a girl named Taiya who is one of Petamaru's elite guards." Kin, now having tears spilling from her eyes, nodded. Naruto, closing his eyes, smiled softly and asked, "How would you like to come with me, Kin? Where you can join the village and finally find out what it means to have a family. Where your presence is appreciated and loved, instead of just noticed. Where can you have hopes, dreams, and ambitions without fear of repercussions? Where will you have the protection of a goddess?" Kin, sniffling now, said, "That would be wonderful." Naruto, now smiling brightly, said, "Well then, welcome to Konohagakure no Sado. I, Uzumaki Naruto, swear to protect you from any and all that seek to harm you. I'm sure I can talk Gigi into making you a citizen of Fire Country, and if you want, a kunoichi of Konoha." Kin, hearing this, started crying in joy. Naruto, walking over to the crying kunoichi, wrapped her in a soothing and tender hug that made Raku. Sakura wants Naruto to hug her like that and be her hero. Tenten was still staring at Naruto's swords, wondering if he could really use all 4. Lee was unconscious and Neji was trying to stop his ears from bleeding. Kin, crying into Naruto's chest, could feel how warm his hug was and wanted to snuggle into him. Naruto, still tired, asked Kinchan, "Can I let go?" Kin quickly shook her head no and said, "No, hold on to me, Naruto-sama." She Venom, "Hold on to me. Hold on to me. Don't you ever leave, don't you ever leave." I mean, Naruto blinked and wondered why in the hell was Kin calling him Naruto-sama. Sighing, he said, "Alright then, let's make camp, and I mean all of us. Team 9, you can leave in the morning." Neji nodded and soon camp broke out. The next day, the one-person larger Team 7 could be seen heading towards the tower, with Naruto still being forced to hold at least some part of Kin. He had decided to hold her hand, as holding anything else wasn't cool with him. Sasuke at the back of the group was once again brooding, this time brooding as Naruto refused to give him those swords. Sakura was glaring at Kin, not liking that the former sound kunoichi was holding Naruto's hand. Kin, for the first time in a long time, felt safe and secure, and it was all thanks to Naruto, who was warm like the rays of the sun. They were nearly to the tower when Arant demanded that Naruto go save the Uzumaki female about to be mauled by a bear, her now dead teammates pissed off on purpose. Naruto, sighing, created a clone and had it hold King's hand. Smiling softly at her, he said, "My clone will take you 3 to the tower, and Kinchan, it's just as strong and protective as me. If you feel threatened in any way, just squeeze its hand." Kin, hearing this, nodded and let the clone lead her to the tower, with Sakura trying to pick between staying with Naruto or keeping an eye on the sound of kunoichi. In the end, she decided to keep an eye on Kin. Sasuke just huffed and walked away. Naruto, once sure they were heading to the tower, followed his mom's directions and quickly came across Karin Uzumaki quivering as a bear slowly advanced on her, licking its blood-caked maw. Naruto, drawing Algernon, vanished as he quickly sliced off all 4 legs of the bear. Appearing in front of Karin facing her, he ignored as blood sprayed behind him and the bear cried out in pure agony. Karin had wide eyes as the person in front of her had not only just saved her life, but was radiating chakra like a beacon in dark space. She then got a good look at him as he leaned in and asked her if she was alright. Her eyes widened, spotting his shoulder-length red and black hair, and then she finally recognized the Uzumaki chakra she had been taught by her late mother to always recognize. Naruto, looking at Karin, smiled softly and said, "Hi, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, Crown Prince of the Uzumaki clan." When Karin heard this, she instantly glommed on Naruto and was rubbing her against his lower body as she purred out, "Karin Uzumaki, at your service, Naruto-kun." Naruto's sweat dropped when she did this and asked Karin, "Did you work for Petamaru?" Karin blinked and quickly realized that her king was asking her if she worked for Orochimaru. Sneering, she said, "I used to, but now that I've found you, I refuse to work for that greedy snake." Naruto nodded hearing this and asked, "How much of his operations do you know?" Karin smiled brightly and informed him just how much she knew. Naruto and Kushina both whistled as Karin was deeply involved with Orochimaru's work. Naruto, realizing that the old man needed this information, asked, would you be willing to tell all of this to the Hokage? Karin nodded and said yes, just as long as I get to stay by your side. Naruto's sweat dropped, and said alright then, come on. Karin eagerly followed him as the two reached the tower, and entered the same way Team 7 had just done. He walked in with Karin just as the smoke from the scrolls vanished to reveal Yugao and Kakashi. Yugao, spotting the clone of her student, could see the 4 swords attached to his waist like in Anko's story. She turned to the real Naruto and blinked, spotting him with Karin behind him. Kin, spotting the real Naruto, let go of the clone's hand and rushed towards the real Naruto. She glomped on him and said, Naruto-sama, the Uchiha keeps leering at me. Naruto, hearing this, said, kick him the next time he does Kinchan and put some chakra into your foot so the message gets across. Kin, nodding, ignored Sasuke and Kakashi, blanching. Naruto spotted Yugao and said, Yugao-sensei, myself, along with Kin and Karin, need to speak to the old man. Yugao raised an eyebrow and asked why. Naruto said, I'm sure Anko-chan told you about Team 7's encounter with the old man's pedophile of a former student. Well, Kin and Karin have information about said white snake that I'm sure he'd find useful. As for me, I need to give him the basics for my bloodlines, well, the new one I activated. Yugao, hearing this, asked so Anko was telling the truth when she said you transformed into a bipedal red and black wolf that sent Orochimaru packing. Naruto nodded and blinked when Yugao said yep, it's official. Naruto was curious and asked what's official. She smiling grabbed him and pulled him into a soul-searing, toe-curling, wet dream-giving kiss that made Kakashi drop his book, Sasuke jealous, and the 3 females in the room glare at her. When she let go of him, she smiled and said, it's official that I'm glad Kurenai-chan offered me a spot in your harem, and I accepted. Naruto, not hearing a word she said, was in a daze, as almost all functions of his body started to systematically shut off. He, standing there with a far-off look in his eyes, said, sweet mother of all things ramen. First Nai-chan gives me kisses like that, then Anko-chan gives me one right after the written exam, and then Yu-chan gives me a kiss that would make a saint want to sin. His eyes then turned red as a deep demonic voice said, I don't know if I should hate this brat for being my container and scoring 3 stone-cold vixens, or praise the brat for being my container and using his own power, plus scoring 3 stone-cold vixens with possibly more to come. Naruto's eyes then returned to normal, while Kakashi fainted as he had no clue Naruto had been kissed by 3 out of the 4 ice queens of Konoha. Yugao giggled as even the Kyuubi thought she was hot, plus her boyfriend student was in a complete daze. Karin glared at Yugao, not liking that this unknown hussy had just kissed her prince like that. Kin glared at Yugao, not liking that this unknown bitch had just kissed her savior like that. Sakura had the most sour look on her face as Naruto's sensei had just kissed him. Inner Sakura was crying bloody murder, as the stupid purple-haired bitch was trying to corrupt her Naruto-kun. Sasuke seethed in jealousy as only he deserved kisses like that and only from Naruto. She venom looks at Sasuke with wide eyes. 2 hours later Naruto was listening as Karin and Kin finished telling Sarutobi and the shinobi side of the council everything they knew. Sarutobi, stroking his beard, said, this is very good information, girls. For your service I grant you citizenship in Konoha and dash. He was about to continue when Hayashi Hyuga said, before you finish, Hokage-sama, I would like to ask how we can trust what they are saying. Many of the other clan heads nodded except Sam, who was for some reason staring at Naruto with hungry eyes. Naruto said, frankly, I could ask you all the same thing. I mean, how am I supposed to trust any of you? Most if not all of you stood by and let me suffer at the hands of the ignorant civilians, even though you knew damn well I wasn't the Kyuubi, and that my mother would be ripping you all a new one if she could. All of the clan heads turned to him and Hayashi asked, how do you know who your mother is? Naruto, giving the man a plain look, said, because I met her, and she told me everything, including who my father was. This bomb made the eyes in the room nearly pop and the tension in the room became thick. Kin and Karin, confused, asked, who are your parents? Naruto-samakin. Naruto, smiling, said, Minato Namikaze, otherwise known as Konoha's Yellow Flash, or the Yondaime Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, the Uzumaki death god. Karin, hearing this, suddenly gained hearts in her eyes as she said, Naruto-kun, your mom was legendary. Kin, now shocked, said, your lineage is astounding, Naruto-sama. Kurenai, being in the room with most of the other jonin, gulped and asked, "How do you feel about this, Naruto-kun?" Naruto turned to her with a smile and said, "I understand why Gigi gave me mom's name instead of Namikaze, as the old man had lots of enemies and I wasn't ready to face any of them. I also understand why no one told me about it, as I was a loud-mouthed idiot at one point." He literally felt everyone's sigh as he said, "But I'm pissed the hell off that the so-called friends of my parents stood by and let me suffer and be punished for something far beyond my control. I'm also very interested why my godparents appointed by mom and dad didn't take care of me, nor have I seen a hair on either of their heads." Sarutobi chuckled and said, "You have seen Jiraiya-kun, Naruto-kun. You've seen him many times in my office, but most of the time he looks like a living bruise." Naruto blinked as his mom informed him that his godfather liked to peek at women. Naruto nodded and asked, "What about my godmother?" Sarutobi had no answer until Karin asked, "Who is your godmother, Naruto-kun?" Naruto and Sarutobi both answered with Tsunade Senju. Karin, hearing this, gained wide eyes and said, "I know why she hasn't been around, Naruto-sama." Naruto blinked and asked why. Karin said, "Because Orochimaru lied to her about your death. He even showed her a false death certificate and a fake body." Eyes widened and Naruto growled and said, "That's it, that piece of snake shit just made the list." Sarutobi, hearing this, felt only a little pity for his former student as he said, "I will fix this, as I will send Jiraiya and someone else with some pictures of you and a letter explaining what happened." Naruto nodded and said, "Alright, old man, allow me to inform you about my new bloodlines." Naruto then explained his new bloodlines and even transformed into Okamimon as proof. He didn't expect to be glomped by Tsum, who started to lick his face as she said, "Alpha-kun." Naruto, reverting back to normal, was confused but at the same time turned on. Sarutobi, ignoring this, said, "Alright, Naruto-kun, I'll write this all down now. You and your 2 followers go get some rest, as the preliminaries are tomorrow." Naruto, blinking, asked, "Preliminaries?" Sarutobi, chuckling darkly, said, "Yes, preliminaries." Naruto groaned as he walked out with the giggling Kin and Karin. Kurenai standing beside Yugao with Anko on her other side. "What is the plan, Hokage-sama?" Sarutobi gained a face that made the shinobi shiver as he said, "We act as if we don't know Orochimaru's plans, but prepare for it. We train our genin who make it past the prelims and train those who don't. We will not fall prey to Orochimaru's foolish ambitions." Everyone nodded as he said, "Dismissed." Kurenai, once hearing this, smiled at Yugao and Anko and said, "Come girls, I believe we have a maelstrom to congratulate you for making it to the tower in time." Yugao giggled and said he's gonna pass out from a nosebleed. Anko asked, "When do you plan on taking his purity, Nai-chan?" Kurenai, smiling, said, "After the preliminaries, and once our realities are gone, then you two and Hana can have a go with him." Anko, hearing this, started to giggle much like Jiraiya as she said, "I'm gonna set his world on fire when it's my turn." Yugao, giggling in much the same manner, said, "I wonder if he'll let me dominate him." Kurenai rolled her eyes and said, "Come on." All 3 females then vanished in a swirl of leaves, forgetting that the Hokage had still been in the room. Sarutobi, with his jaw scraping the ground and his pipe on the floor, was in pure shock from what he had just heard. He then started to smile with pride as proud tears poured down his face. He, practically glowing with pride, said, "My favorite grandson is the luckiest man in the world to nab all 4 of the hottest females in the village." He then giggled like A and said, "I need to alert Jiraiya of this." An hour later, Naruto could be seen resting in the room provided for Team 7 and Naruto's 2 guests. He was laid out in the middle of the largest bed, as Karin and Kin cuddled to either side of him. Karin was down to her panties as she had thrown off her bra, not caring that it wasn't just her and Naruto in the room. Kin, not wanting to be outdone by Karin, had stripped down to her panties and hesitated before tossing her bra also. This had revealed that their clothes and looks were very deceiving, as both girls had very impressive figures. Sakura had been steaming mad, spotting both of the S that Naruto had saved cuddling up next to him. That was supposed to be her, and she was supposed to be sleeping on top of Naruto, as their lower bodies connected in perfect harmony. Sasuke glared at the 2 females as he wanted to be the one spooning with Naruto, as it was his right to be cuddled with his future boyfriend. Shivenom scoots away from Sasuke and sprays some repellent. Naruto was ignorant of all of this as he was standing in front of his mother once again in his mindscape, except this time, the Kyuubi could be seen staring at him with those big red murderous eyes. Rakushina, easily ignoring this, smiled at her little pharaoh who was trying to recreate the howling thunder. She could easily tell that Naruto was gonna be greater than her and Minato put together, and that made her giddy. She giggled as she had just taken the purified Kuzenagi and sent it to Amaterasu, who had been searching for her missing sword for centuries. She of course didn't just take the legendary sword without giving her baby one to replace it. She had given him his birthright, her old sword, the Shinkaku Ketsuki, Crimson Vampire, a blade she had forged from the very fangs of Dracula in his demon form. This blade not only absorbed the blood of its victims, but could enslave anyone it defeated. It's part of the reason why she became the Uzumaki death god. She knew her baby would take care of it, and possibly bond with the blade. Naruto, slamming howling thunder into the wooden post he had created, smirked as it finally worked. The post both froze and burned from the attack. He looked at his mother, who was giggling again, and asked, "So since I'm here and you're here, can you teach me something, Ka-chan?" Ra blinked hearing his question and nodded. Walking forward, she said, "Sure, Sochi. I even know what I'll teach you." She then sat down, prompting him to do the same. He curiously asked, "What are you going to teach me?" She smiled and said, "I'm gonna start you on the ancient and powerful art of Sage Mode." Naruto held his head and ignored the widening of Kyubi's eyes and asked, "What's Sage Mode?" Ra giggled and said, "Sage Mode is when someone with a summon or a tremendous connection to nature furthers that connection by drawing in the natural chakra or nature. Your godfather has been trying to complete his sage training with the toads for years and still hasn't perfected it. Your godmother's grandfather, Hashirama Senju, didn't even have a summoning contract yet. He is the only mortal besides the Sage of Six Paths to ever come close to perfecting and mastering the Sage Mode. Yes, baby, the Sage of Six Paths did not perfect it, but he did master Sage Mode. The reason why they could never perfect or master it was because Kami-chan was the one who created Sage Mode, and the two of them never found true harmony with their godly nature." Naruto blinked and asked, "What do you mean by their godly nature?" She giggled and said, "What I'm about to tell you is very confidential and never needs to be told to anyone else. You see, the Sage of Six Paths, otherwise known as Hagoromo Otsutsuki, was the grandson of Kami-chan, as his mother Kaguya Otsutsuki was Kami's daughter and only child. It tore Kami-chan up watching her daughter be corrupted by the Shinju, and then being sealed by her grandsons." Naruto's jaw dropped hearing this. She giggled and shut his jaw before continuing with, "Hashirama Senju is the son of Persephone, the Greek goddess of the spring, while also being the many times great-grandchild of Kami-chan." Naruto felt like fainting hearing this information. Kyubi was even more shocked than Naruto not knowing this information. Ra giggled and said, "What's more is that the Uzumaki clan are cousin clans of the Senju clan, and you're the many times great-grandchild of Susanoo, and my child." Naruto hearing this blinked, as that did make sense, as he did feel calm when storms hit Konoha. Ra then said, "Now then, we'll start you off with your sage training by having you find your center." Naruto blinked and said, "Ka-chan, Yugao-sensei already taught me how to find my center." Ra hearing this blinked and asked, "Did you find it?" He nodded and said, "I did, and I go to it every time I do a jutsu of any kind." Ra beamed hearing this, as that's what she did as Kushina. She said, "Alright then, the next step is find the nature chakra around you. It should feel calming yet wild." Naruto nodded and got into his meditative stance. He quickly found his center and moved on from it to feel the chakra around him. Ra watched as he did so and gained wide eyes when he quickly found the nature chakra. Naruto, opening his eyes to reveal that instead of being the normal blue they were a plum purple, asked, "What's next?" She smiled and said, "Next you have to try and bond it with your godly nature and chakra." "Yes, you have godly chakra." Naruto blinking asked, "What does my godly chakra feel like, and what is my godly nature?" She giggled and said, "Baby, your godly chakra is wild, untamed and unpredictable like you, but also warm and comforting like the sun, and for you the storm. As for your godly nature, baby, there is a reason you can easily call upon the power of the giant kitsune over there. You, my precious child, are a trickster by nature, with a petulance for chaos and revenge. You're also a very justice-oriented being, which makes me proud." Naruto blinked and closed his eyes, deciding to ignore the trickster comment as it was true. He took the nature chakra and slowly bonding it with his godly chakra and nature, didn't even know that his hair was rising and that green marks appeared around his eyes. Ra and Kyubi noticed though, and both were shocked. Ra couldn't believe her baby was easily able to access a part of Sage Mode. Kyubi was shocked as it could feel the power rolling off of its container in waves. Naruto successfully bonding the natural chakra with his godly chakra but not with his godly nature opened his eyes and said, "It won't bond with my nature yet, but it bonded with my chakra." Arant shaking her head said, "Alright, then we can move on to the next step." Naruto was curious and asked, "What's the next step?" She smiled and said, "It's time for you to turn that natural chakra into attacks and incorporate it into your jutsu." Naruto whistled as this sounded like the hard part. He would open his eyes 8 hours later to find Karin and Kin gone, along with Sakura and Sasuke. Getting up, he popped his back and looked over to the table and smiled, spotting all 4 of his swords there along with a note. Picking the note up, he smiled as it was from Karin and Kin telling him that they were going to get lunch and that they were going to scope out the competition for the prelims for him. Pocketing the note, he blinked, realizing that he had only his pants on as his upper body armor and shirt was still in the forest. He groaned as this meant that until the end of the prelims he was going to be shirtless. Rubbing his head, he decided to go use the bathroom, as he had to take a piss. When he walked into the bathroom, the door to the room opened and Kurenai poked her head in. Looking around to make sure no one but Naruto was in the room, she smiled as it was deserted. She could hear Naruto in the bathroom emptying his bladder. Walking in the room, she shut and locked the door, before applying a seal given to her by Yugao to the wall. She smiled when a purple barrier appeared which would keep anyone from coming in until the seal was removed, and it also kept anyone from speaking or listening. Nodding to herself, she mentally prepared herself for what she was about to do. Her mind started wondering if she was really prepared to give her purity to the boyman she had fallen for. She also wondered if Naruto would love her body, as she knew that she wasn't as large as Yugao's and she wasn't as thick as Anko's. She even conceded she didn't have the wild, untamed sex appeal of Hana. What she did have though was exotic red wine eyes, her purity and her unyielding love. She calmed her nerves when Naruto walked into the room. He blinked, spotting Kurenai, and wondered what she was doing here, until his mind reminded him of what she said when he was on the way to the first exam. His face burned with a bright blush. Kurenai noticed this and giggled and sauntered up to him with a look in her eyes that men in Naruto's place would literally kill for. She reached him, laid her hand on his bare chest, and said, "I hope you're ready, Naruto-kun. We're about to explore each other's bodies." Naruto's blush darkened hearing this, and he was about to say something when she kissed him, making him once again see southern constellations. Lemony goodness starts here. Skip if you want. Kurenai, knowing what her kisses did to Naruto, pushed him back on the bed and decided to strip for him. Slowly and sensually she started to take off her clothes. Naruto was transfixed watching his girlfriend take off her top first. This revealed her red bra, keeping her in. She then slowly turned around and removed her skirt, showing off her red panty-clad ass. Naruto felt his friend spring up. Kurenai, dropping her skirt, turned around and smiled as Naruto was transfixed. She then got on the bed and crawled over his body and kissed him once again. She then deepened the kiss and licked his lips, asking for access. Naruto opened his mouth, and she shoved her tongue in his mouth and started to dominate his mouth. She then, moving her hands to his chest, shivered as he was so fit, yet not overly so. She ended the kiss and started to slowly kiss down his neck. Naruto groaned as this felt wonderful. Kurenai smiled hearing him groan in pleasure, as she was glad her man liked this. She then moved her hand down to his pants and gasped as she could feel his bulge through his pants. Looking down, she could clearly see the outline of his not-so-little friend. Shaking her head, she moved her lips to one of his S and started to gently on it while stroking his bulge through his pants. Naruto groaned again as this was wonderful. Kurenai, switching to his mother, started to stroke the bulge even faster. She blinked when he suddenly groaned very loudly. Removing her lips from his, she looked down at his pants and giggled as she had made him. Shaking her head, she knew she was far from done with her man. Moving down, she pulled his pants off and giggled as there was a stain on his boxers. She then slid these down and gasped as staring at her was a 12.5 inch, with a girth of 2.5 inches. She knew that this was very big, and that this made Naruto even more special. She smiled and started to stroke it once more and was delighted when Naruto groaned. She continued this action until she started to lightly lick it. Naruto's groan got even louder. She then decided to take it even further and slowly put it in her mouth. Naruto, feeling a hot and wet sensation on his, groaned very loudly. Kurenai, having her man in her mouth, was very glad she had given Oro before. She then slowly started to bob her head up and down, increasing the pleasure Naruto was feeling. Naruto felt like he was in heaven, as this was beyond his wildest dreams. Kurenai decided to increase the pleasure, and took off her bra to reveal her 30-60 cup. Wrapping said items around Naruto, she started to bounce, and continued to him like a lollipop. Naruto, feeling two objects around him, looked up and came at the sight before him. Kurenai, feeling him do so, tried to swallow every drop, but some still spilled out onto her. She released him with a loud pop, smiled a sultry smile at him, and said, "It's your turn, Naruto-kun." She then moved her soaked panties to his face. Naruto, reaching up with his hands and sliding the panties to the side, stuck his tongue inside of her. Kurenai felt her man's tongue inside of her. Naruto started to lick her even faster and got a good grip on her ass. Kurenai, arching her back, could feel an orgasm approaching quickly. She screamed as it crashed down on her like a tidal wave. Naruto's face and chest was coated by her juices. Kurenai was about to move her from Naruto's face when she was forced to, as Naruto's tongue went right back to work, and she was once again being eaten out. She, grinding her hips on Naruto's face, started to squeeze and knead her, not caring that she still had Naruto's on them. Kurenai, feeling immense pleasure, ate out, "Ooh, Naruto-kun." Naruto, under her hearing, decided to bite her clit. When he did this, Kurenai screamed loudly as she came once again. Naruto was once again sprayed by her. Kurenai, having just had two powerful orgasms back to back, knew she couldn't last much longer. Moving so she was hovering over Naruto's, she smiled and said, "This is Naruto-kun, the moment we become connected for life." Naruto smiled and said, "I'm ready, Kurenai." She loved hearing him call her princess, and slowly lowered herself down on his. She did this until he was fully inside, as her hymen had broken a long time ago during a training exercise. She ended up feeling he hit her cervix. She felt so stuffed, and knew that she wanted to always feel this stuffed when having sex. She leaned forward and started to slowly ride him like he was a bucking bronco. Naruto, placing his hands on her hips, closed his eyes and let his dominion over Poke Girls take over. It was like a flip was switched, and his hips became a blur, as he started slamming into Kurenai at a supersonic speed. Kurenai's eyes widened and her mouth made an O shape as her lover stared at her like he was a lightning bolt. In no time at all she was constantly saying, as Naruto pounded into her, making her entire body shake. She felt another orgasm coming, leaned forward and locked lips with Naruto as she came. She was shocked to not feel Naruto come inside of her. Her eyes widened when she found herself on her back without slipping out, as Naruto still pounded her insides. He was leaning over her, and she could see it in his eyes. He was gonna sense her senseless, and then some. It turned her on and made her worried at the same time. 3 hours later, and Naruto, thrusting into her for the last time, leaned forward and bit her neck. Kurenai screamed out Naruto's name as she was once again flooded with Naruto's. A bright light then enveloped her as Naruto removed his mouth to reveal a mark on her neck. It was the symbol on his forehead. Naruto, pulling out, fell on him as he watched as his Kurenai was enveloped in a bright light. When the light died down, it revealed a changed Kurenai. Her hair had changed to a light green with small streaks of black in it. Her skin gained a green hue to it, and a plant-like bulb appeared on her back. This bulb had the first of its petals open up. She increased in size until they were easily E-cups. Naruto, confused, couldn't really ponder on it, as he was exhausted from his romp with Kurenai, and wondered if all of his sexual encounters were gonna be like this. Lemon is over. You can read now. Naruto, crawling into the bed and pulling the almost comatose Kurenai close to him, kissed her softly on the lips and said, "Thank you, Kurenai." This snapped Kurenai out of her state of shock, and she snuggled into her man, deciding to stay with him for a little while. She closed her eyes and said, "No, thank you, Naruto-kun, for loving me as I am." Both were then asleep, either knowing that Sasuke and Sakura were trying to get back in the room, with Sasuke having plans to steal Naruto's swords and Sakura cuddling with Naruto while his bitches weren't with him. Karin and Kin had been informed by Yugao what was happening. They weren't happy about it but didn't want to interrupt it. The both of them were actually sleeping in another room, cuddling each other, having sweet dreams about their Naruto-sama. Kushina was shocked as Kurenai had just transformed into an ivy. which was unheard of. She then giggled as her baby was truly unpredictable, as he had managed to transform a completely human female into this world's first poke girl. Of course, she wondered how Kurenai would respond to her body and powers, but trusted the woman to react properly. She then blinked, feeling someone arrive. Turning, she gained wide eyes, spotting Amaterasu, who said, "I wish to watch the preliminaries with you, Kushina-san." Kushina blinked and asked why. Amaterasu, holding up the Kusanagi, said, "I wish to witness the power of the one who returned my precious sword to me." Kushina blinked and was about to ask something when Kami, Susanoo, Tsukuyomi, Yami and even the Shinigami all appeared and said, "We would also like to witness this." Kushina, narrowing her eyes at all of the goddesses, asked, "What has drawn all of your attention?" Susanoo, combing some of her long blue hair back, said, "My many times great-grandchild." Tsukuyomi, with a blush on her pale heart-shaped face, said, "Naruto-san." Yami, giggling, said, "Your hunk of a son?" Shinigami, wiping the excess lipstick on her lips off, said, "I wish to witness Naruto's power firsthand." Kami smiled at Kushina and said, "Because your son is the purest soul since my little Hashirama-kun, and that interests me." Kushina, hearing these explanations, quickly put together that all of the goddesses in the room were now interested in her Sochi. She rolled her eyes and said, "My Sochi is such a Casanova and he doesn't even know it." The next day, Naruto could be seen standing beside Sakura, who was now glaring at Kurenai. Kurenai, under a genjutsu to hide her new features, ignored Sakura's glare, as the pink-haired girl didn't deserve her Naruto-kun, and even if she did, Kurenai wouldn't allow her into the harem. Sasuke was also glaring at Kurenai, as he was supposed to be riding Naruto, as the dobe called him Sasuke-sama. She venomed shivers. Yugao, standing beside Anko, wondered why all of the clan heads and most of the council members were here. 2 out of 3 elders were even there. Sarutobi, looking at Naruto with pride in his eyes, said, "Congratulations to all of you who have made it this far. You have made your villages proud. Now then, I'm sure many of you are wondering what's next." The dash. He was cut off by Naruto, who said, "Old man, stop talking so much, and just get to the prelims." Sarutobi, with a twitching eyebrow, said, "Naruto, what have I told you about interrupting me?" Naruto, scratching his chin, said, "You said the next time I interrupted you, I was going to be babysitting Konohamaru for the next 6 months. Naruto, then giving Sarutobi a look everyone in Konoha was deathly afraid of, said, "Try it, old man, and not only will make your paperwork multiply like rabbits before I unleash a spree of pranks so horrifying, I'll make what my mom did when you tried to ban her from the Chunin exams look like child's play." Every single person who knew who Naruto's mom was in the room turned so white Orochimaru was slightly jealous. Sarutobi, with a clear amount of fear in his voice, said, "Yugao-chan, please start the prelims." Yugao also coughed and said, "Alright, since we have an even amount of genin, no one has to give up. But if you are tired or feel like not being defeated, now is the time to surrender." All eyes moved to Sakura, who started arguing with Sasuke about the evil Hiki of doom Orochimaru had given him. Others looked at Team 10, who had just arrived. Naruto, getting tired of Sakura and Sasuke arguing, said, "Sakura, stop arguing with the theme. If he chooses to battle with that super evil Hiki Petamaru gave him affecting his chakra, then let him. It's not like he's a weak little baby who can't handle his own." Naruto snorted, "I hate to admit it, but Team is the second strongest competitor in this damn exam." Sasuke, hearing this, gained wide eyes, not believing Naruto had just said that. He wasn't alone, as everyone knew that Naruto didn't like Sasuke very much. Kakashi curiously asked, "Who is the strongest competitor?" Naruto said, "Gaara no Sabaku is the strongest competitor, not including myself." Gaara, hearing this, smirked and said loudly, "Uzumaki mother screams for your blood." Naruto, lifting up both of his middle fingers, said, "Yeah, well, my mom wants me to tell you, mom, you buddy." A lot of people snickered hearing this, as only Naruto would do something so rude. Yugao, seeing that no one was giving up, said, "Alright, we'll start the prelims." Everyone looked at the screen and watched as it rolled through names until it stopped on Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. Sasuke smirked and was about to arrogantly walk down the steps when Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Sasuke, if your curse mark gets out of control, I will have to step in and stop the fight." Sasuke nodded and made his way down the steps. Yoro huffed and said, "You stand no chance against me. I'm an elite genin." Naruto, hearing this, didn't even complain about how Sasuke and Yoroi sounded so alike. Yugao noticed this also, but said, "First match begins." Before Sasuke could even get moving, Yoroi was on him like white on rice and was to his horror trying to drain his chakra. Sasuke on the ground was in agony and trying to figure out what to do when he heard Naruto snort and say, "Alright Uchiha, stop playing and show them trying to absorb your chakra power." Sasuke snarled as Naruto was right, and with a newfound strength beat Yoroi off of him before unleashing a hellish barrage on the fool, with it culminating with Sasuke slamming his heel on Yoroi's head and snapping the boy's neck. Yugao clicked her teeth and said, "Winner by death, Sasuke Uchiha." Before Sasuke could even take a step, Kakashi appeared and vanished with the Uchiha in a swirl. Naruto rolled his eyes knowing that Kakashi was going to seal the evil Hiki of doom. 2 matches later and Naruto watched as it was Temari's time, and she was against Tenten. It didn't end well for Tenten and Naruto felt bad for the bun-haired girl, so he using his awesome speed caught her before she could hit Temari's fan. He said, "Even though you're cute, I don't appreciate it when people try to cripple members of my village." He then handed Tenten to the medic and said, "This will be your one and only warning to Temari." He turned to look her directly in the eyes and revealed his slitted blood-red eyes as he said, "Next time I'll kill you." Temari shivered in pure fear spotting those eyes, as they were nothing like his warm blue eyes from before. Yugao was glad she had already called the match, but was also proud of her student for sticking up for his fellow Konoha ninja like that. Naruto groaned when Ino and Sakura screeched, "You look so cool, Naruto-kun." Shaking his head, he vanished and appeared back in his spot and said, "Troublesome fangirls." Shikamaru, hearing him say this, nodded and said, "I completely agree." Naruto was about to say something when Ino and Sakura's names appeared. His face palmed as he said, "This is gonna be the most pathetic and absolute worst thing in the history of Konoha." Shikamaru, actually standing beside him, said, "You forgot troublesome, as those two make all kunoichi look bad and Konoha look bad in general." Asuma chuckled and said, "It can't be that bad." Naruto and Shikamaru both gave him plain looks and said, "You're the sensei of Ino, and you know that she'd rather put on makeup or buy expensive as hell dresses than train." Asuma's sweat dropped as they were right. That described Ino without a doubt. Asuma asked, "What about Sakura?" Naruto and Shikamaru said the same as Ino, except with a really bad temper, the unconscious need to insult anyone she thinks lower than herself, not to mention anyone who contradicts anything her obsession says. Asuma wasn't the only one to sweat when they said this, and Kurenai, a little afraid, asked, "How are you doing that?" Naruto and Shikamaru, quarreling with the same eyebrow, asked, "Doing what?" Chuji, knowing what they were talking about, said, "Oh man, this hasn't happened since that time they both decided to creep Irika-sensei out that day before Halloween." The other genin, remembering this, either laughed or in Kiba's place smirked. Shino said, "Last I heard, Irika still fears the twin demons of the academy and dreads anyone ever learning the curse technique." Naruto then gained a smirk that sent chills down everyone's spines as he said, "Then he's in for a terrifying surprise the next time he asks Konohamaru or Udon something. Hell, if he asks all 3 of the brats something, he's gonna faint." Kurenai, afraid to know, asked, "What did you do?" Naruto, chuckling darkly, said, "I taught the 3 of them the twin demon technique. They took it a step higher and turned into the 3-headed dog technique." Shikamaru, hearing this, said, "Irika-sensei is gonna catch hell from those 3. Naruto nodded and said, "Look, the fight is almost over." Everyone looked and sweat dropped as both girls were rushing towards each other with one last punch. It ended with a double knockout, and Yugao wanting to strangle the 2 girls with her bare hands. Getting both girls off of the arena, she said, "Alright, the next match is Kankuro Sabaka vs Midori of Konoha." Both boys quickly got into position and Yugao started the match. Naruto, watching the battle, was boring, so he pulled out his mother's sword and started trying to bond with it like he did with Aljuin, Kubikuribocho, and even his new sword he gained from his Digivolution. It was called Grey Sword, and damn if it wasn't powerful. It even taught him a new jutsu called Terra Force. It was like a super version of his Howling Thunder attack, and the fact that he was blue made it even better. He was sad that Karin and Kin had to be taken to the safe house, as he had wanted to show them his awesome moves. Oh well, he just have to settle for showing off for his Kurenai Haim and Yugao-chan and Enko-chan and maybe even Hana-chan. He then blinked as it was Niji versus Hinata. Hearing Shino trying to give Hinata the confidence to fight her off, a cousin had an idea. Walking over, he said, "Oi Hinata." All eyes moved to him. He reached into the seal he had Yugao draw on him to contain his swords, pulled out Aljuin, and said, I'm lending you Aljuin to show that pompous of a cousin of yours what true power looks like. Hinata with wide eyes gently accepted the blade and felt this wave of power hit her. Looking down at Aljuin, she looked up at Naruto and asked, are you sure, Naruto-kun? Naruto, doing the good guy pose, said yes, as Aljuin has already accepted you as another of his wielders. He then walked back over to his spot and leaned over the railings. Hinata, now having the backing of her entire team and her former crush, walked down the stairs with confidence. Neji snorted, you should have just given up, failure, as even with that sword you cannot hope to defeat me. Hinata unconsciously growled and said, you're talking too much. Shut up and fight, you filthy milk drinker. Eyes widened and Naruto said, holy shit, Aljuin must really like Hinata-chan if he's already talking to her. Everyone blinked hearing him say this, and Kurenai asked, what do you mean, Naruto-kun? He blushing said, well, Aljuin isn't really a normal sword. It has the soul of an ancient and powerful dragon inside of it. All eyes widened and Yugao with stars for eyes asked, are you telling me that your sword is sentient? Naruto nodded and said, yeah. Actually, all of my swords are sentient. Yugao started to drool hearing this as she purred, Naruto-kun. Naruto blushed and everyone blinked when Hinata cried out, Kenjutsu, roar of the World Eater Jutsu. Naruto beamed when Neji was literally slammed into the wall from a massive gust of wind that the distinct roar of a dragon could be heard. Everyone else gasped as this was amazing. Hinata, glaring at Neji with her Byakugan activated, said, no more games. It's time I showed you that fate does not exist. She then lifted Aljuin up high, shut her eyes and said, Kenjutsu, wrath of the World Eater Jutsu. She then swung down and everyone gasped as the ground literally split as a huge wave of destructive chakra charged towards Neji. Neji was hit directly by the attack and his screams hit the room. When his screams stopped, jaws dropped as Neji was still in the wall but unconscious. Hayashi with wide eyes asked, how powerful is that damn sword? Yugao, now once again drooling, said, winner by knockout, Hinata Hyuga. Hinata beaming skipped up the steps and handed Aljuin back to Naruto, but not before thanking them both. Naruto waved her thanks, saying she would do the same for him. The next match was Lee vs Gaara and Naruto said, alright, you bushy brown freak. Kick that insomniac's ass. Lee, giving the thumbs up, said, Yash, I will do so, Naruto-kun, and if I cannot I will run 1000 laps around Konoha using only my tongue. Naruto waved this off and said, dude, talk is cheap and frankly I've got expensive taste, so just do it already. She venom, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Search the city song. Lee, burning with determination, jumped down to the arena. The battle was good but ended with Gaara winning. Naruto, glaring at the boy for crying to end, Lee said, you just made my list, you red-headed shithead. Sarutobi, hearing this, knew that the son Jinchuriki was in for it now. Gaara, giving Naruto a deranged smile, said, I eagerly await our battle, Uzumaki, so that mother can bathe in your blood. Naruto's response was to once again give Gaara the finger and say, you shithead. He blinked when Shikamaru groaned. Turning to see why, he laughed, as apparently Shikamaru had to face Shino. This battle was kinda epic with both boys ending up knocking each other out. Naruto clapping as Shikamaru actually tried for once, blinked as Chuji was now up against some random, unimportant ninja and Chuji managed to win. Now it was finally time for Naruto to shine and he was against Kiba. Kiba, knowing that Naruto was way stronger than before, Kiba turned to Akamaru and asked, are you ready for this, buddy? Akamaru nodded and barked loudly. Naruto, handing almost all of his swords to Kurenai, who was looking at him strangely, said, I got some new things to try out. Plus Kiba's a friend. I'm not gonna turn him into chunks of fresh meat. Kurenai and the others hearing this smiled, while Kiba said, you better use at least one of your swords. Naruto nodded and said, I am, and I'm using Shinkaku Ketsuki. A lot of eyes widened hearing this and Yugao with wide eyes asked, how do you have that sword? Naruto, removing said weapon from his seal and attaching it to his waist, said, Kachan took the Kusanagi and gave it back to Amaterasu-san, and gave me her sword, saying that she was my birthright. Yugao, hearing this, blinked and asked, you talk to your mom? Naruto, nodding as he was now on the arena floor, said, she talks to me all the time, though most of the time it's in riddles and cryptic messages. It's still nice to hear her voice though. Kiba, also down on the field, popped his joints and said, don't hold back, Naruto, because we're not. Naruto, huffing, said, if you don't hold back, Kiba, I may kill you, and I'm kinda trying to date your sexy older sister, and killing you doesn't seem productive. Kiba, growling, said, shut up, Naruto, My sister is not sexy and she is annoying. Naruto, scratching his chin, said no, I'm pretty damn sure she's like a 25.5 out of 30 on the hot to crazy scale. He ignored how every single female awake blinked while most of the males, including the returned Kakashi, nodded. Kiba, making a disgusted face, said my sister isn't even on that damn scale. Now Kurenai-sensei, Yoshino-san, even that crazy snake lady that was the examiner for the second exam are without a doubt on that scale. Naruto, nodding sagely, said Kurenai is thankfully a safe 20.4, and that's how I hope it stays. Enko-chan is dangerously close to the 30-point mark with a 28.9 being her current score. Yugao-sensei is also teetering dangerously close to 30 points, as she's at 28.3. Yugao and Enko blinked when hearing this and made a note to ask Naruto about this scale. Yugao coughed and asked, are you both ready? Naruto nodded and said, hell yeah, I'm Yugao-sensei. Kiba nodded and said, let's do this. Yugao then started the match and Naruto started blurring through hand signs. Landing on a rabbit, he said Hayatan breath of the frozen goddess jutsu. Kiba gained wide eyes when the very battlefield turned into a winter wonderland. Yugao, used to Naruto doing his ice jutsu, was a little turned on as this jutsu was once just a small little slick of ice. Kiba, shaking his head, said damn Naruto, this is one hell of a jutsu. Naruto chuckled and said you haven't seen anything yet, Kiba. Naruto then vanished and the next thing anyone knew Kiba was sent tumbling towards the wall. Naruto appeared to be in a crouched position as he was letting his new animal instincts guide his body. Kiba, getting up and rubbing his jaw, said damn, I need to get serious. He then took off on all fours to engage Naruto in combat. Pretty soon the two were locked in a deadly battle that had people holding on to their breath. Hana and Sum were both watching this match closely, because if Naruto managed to defeat Kiba, then he would prove himself worthy of being the mate of both the matriarch of the Inuzuka and the heiress of the Inuzuka clan. Kiba, jumping back, was now shirtless as it had been torn to shreds by Naruto. Naruto now had rips in his pants and a few slashes across his chest. Both boys smirked and Kiba asked, ready Akamaru? Akamaru barked and Kiba tossed him a little red pill. Naruto was curious about what was about to happen until Akamaru turned red and jumped on Kiba's back. Kiba laughingly said man-beast clone jutsu. Naruto whistled when there were now two Kiba instead of one. He then laughed and said, alright Kiba, since you're calling in Akamaru, I guess I can show you the defender of justice. He was then about to digivolve into Okamamon when Kushina said, actually baby, try digivolve into something else. He blinked and said, alright then. He then surged his chakra through his body and felt the symbol on his forehead glow. Like in the forest of death, he was consumed by a bright pillar of light, and suddenly Kushina's voice could be heard saying, warning, digivolution in progress. Naruto's form then started to grow until he was as tall as the statue. It was then reduced, and the form started to gain some shape. This formed to the shock of everyone, but Kushina gained a feminine shape. The light then vanished, and most of the males and several of the females had to pinch their noses to stop blood from flowing from it. Standing where Naruto had been was a woman with long flowing crimson hair, that was hidden behind a mask that hid her eyes and much of her face. Not even her ears could be seen as this black mask helmet hid them perfectly. She was dressed in an outfit that had a crimson bra holding her impressive bust back that led to a black dress that left her stomach exposed and stopped at her thighs. Around her stomach were two black headbands, one being the Konoha headband, while the other was the Uzushio headband. She had 8 magnificent wings that illuminated the entire room with a golden glow. This woman stood at 7 feet 6 inches tall and radiated power. Kushina's voice with a little pride said, Naruto, digivolve into Crimson Angewoman, embodiment of love and defender of the heart. Kiba, having heard the voice, was drooling with hearts for eyes. Naruto in his new form wondered if his mom was being funny, but blinked when she informed him that this form wasn't actually a champion but was, indeed, an ultimate. He was now impressed as he looked at the twin Kibas and asked, how do you like my new form, Kiba? Kiba with a goofy grin said, that's the hottest form I've ever seen. Naruto, rolling his eyes, turned to Yugao and asked, what do you think, sensei? Yugao with a professional face said, Naruto-kun, if this weren't a battle I'd drag you into a private setting and show you what I think. Naruto giggled as he could feel the love rolling off of Yugao, along with Kurenai, Enko, and to his surprise he could even feel Kin and Karin's love for him. He then smiled at Kiba and said, Kiba, I want you to come at me with everything you got. because I plan on testing the powers of this new form on you. Kiba, hearing this, giggled much like Jiraiya and said, you can test out your limits on me anytime, baby. Naruto rolled his eyes as it seemed as if Kiba was letting his nature control him. Sighing, he said, oh well, Kiba, if you can't control your nature, I guess I won't get to test the limits of this transformation. She lifted her head up, unfolded her wings and lifted into the air. Raising her hand, she surged her chakra forward. She closed her eyes and said, transcendent winds. The Kibas never saw it coming as they were literally ripped into the sky. Naruto wasn't done there. Everyone gasped when her sword transformed into a weapon shaped much like a blue okamimon. She aimed this at the Kibas and said, with the love given to me by my lovely sensei, the kisses placed upon my lips by my Kurenai Harem, and the unyielding love of my wonderful mother, you shall be defeated with this last move. The cannon started to glow with a heavenly light, as Yugao's cheeks burned darkly and her heat started to palpitate. Kurenai gained a serene smile as Naruto in his new form had just acknowledged her love for him. Kurenai was beaming and glowing as her precious child was using his power of love to attack. The eyes then appeared and glowed a bright purple. Aiming at Kiba, she said from the jaws of Garurumon, Supreme Wolf Cannon. With the loud howl of a wolf, Kiba and the transformed Akamaru was hit with an attack that literally removed the hair off of Kiba and the fur off of Akamaru, who transformed back. The two landed and everyone whistled at the power behind the attack. Naruto landing shook his head and said, good thing I cut the power down, a lot of those two would have died. Eyes widened hearing this and Yugao declaring Naruto the winner asked, are you telling me that was toned down? Naruto reverting back to normal and blinking as the headbands remained said, yeah, both of those attacks were toned down. Transcendent winds would have ripped this tower from the ground and sent it hurtling into the sky if I had used it all full power. The Supreme Wolf Cannon is literally a bijou bomb level attack, but I toned it down until it was as powerful as the 4th's Rasengan. Jaws dropped hearing this, and the hidden Orochimaru knew he needed to send Girin, Taiya and that girl the Fuma clan sent him from destroying them. Sasami Fuma to either seduce or kill Naruto, because his plans were screwed if the brat was allowed to participate. Yugao was smiling on the outside, but on the inside she was making plans to seduce Naruto into teaching his sexy sensei girlfriend some of his awesome jutsu. Kurenai shook her head knowing that if her man kept doing things like this he was gonna skip right past Chunin, and land himself in the Kage seat. Sarutobi chuckled as the civilian counselors looked like they had just swallowed several lemons, and he didn't blame them. Naruto had just admitted to having access to a bijou bomb level attack. He coughed, reminding Yugao of her obligations. Yugao nodded and said, alright, all of the previous winners please come down. Everyone did so, with Temari trying to play cute with Naruto. He easily ignored her as he talked with Hinata. Yugao, getting all of their attention, explained that they had a month to prepare for the finals and that they would be using numbers to set up matches. Naruto, reaching into the box, pulled out a 4. He blinked as this meant he was facing Gaara. Sasuke team was up against Hinata. Temari was against Chuji, while Kankuro had a free pass. Snorting, he blinked when Sarutobi said, train hard all of you, you're all dismissed. As soon as the words left his mouth, Yugao grabbed Naruto and vanished, along with Kurenai and Anko. Sarutobi chuckled as he was once again hit with a wave of pride. His grandson was such a man. Naruto, finding himself in his home, yawned and was about to go take a nap, when he found arms wrapped around him and a pair of nice and large ones pressed to his back. He then felt a hot breath on his neck when Yugao said, Naruto-kun, your sensei has a reward to give you for passing the first, second, and getting past the prelims. Naruto's blush increased when Anko appeared wearing a very small bikini, and said, Naruto-kun's sexy lady has something to give you. Naruto gulped, and then knew he was doomed when Kurenai, appearing in her new form with a hungry look in her eyes, said, we're about to rock your world, Naruto-kun. Naruto groaned knowing that he was about to get a lot more tired. His eyes widened when Karin and Kin walked in wearing maid outfits and said, us too, Naruto-samakin. Naruto, looking up, sent a prayer to his mom and his ancestor Susanoo to save him. Rakushina, giggling at her baby's predicament, blinked when Susanoo held up an orb and said, I've been meaning to help this girl out. Kushina's eyes widened when Susanoo sent the orb to the earth and turned to see what would happen. Naruto, being pulled towards the master bedroom, blinked when a very loud crash could be heard from outside. Getting himself free and ignoring the women, he rushed outside to see what had crashed. His eyes widened, spotting the smoking body of a woman. He, ignoring the screams of the females from the inside, rushed to the girl's side. His eyes widened, finding a woman appearing to be in her early 20s with long brown hair, tan skin and a gorgeous frame. She was dressed in a black skin-tight outfit that hugged her frame in all the right places. Naruto, shaking her gently, asked, "Hey, are you alright?" She didn't answer but did groan out, "No, don't leave me." Sighing, Naruto decided to carry the girl inside as the council would just kill her, and he wasn't down with that. Lifting up her bridal style, he carried her inside and gently set her down in one of the guest rooms. He walked out and closed the door softly, looked at Karin and asked, "How good are you at healing?" Karin didn't answer, she just walked into the room and Naruto could feel chakra being used. She came back out 10 minutes later and said, "I healed the damage I could find and she should be fine now." Naruto nodded but gained wide eyes when the girls started to once again pull him to the master bedroom. He asked, "What the hell?" Kurenai said, "We said we're going to rock your world and that's exactly what we're going to do." Naruto, hearing this, whimpered as he was drugged into the room and heard the door lock and felt the seals go up. He whimpered when Kurenai tossed him to the bed and all of the females were. He then heard the Kyuubi wish him good luck as not even it was this foolish in trying to take on that many horny vixens at one time. Naruto, shutting his eyes, sent a little prayer to his mom asking her to give him strength. 2 days later the woman sat up quickly and screamed, "Don't do it, Jubilee." She then realized she wasn't in the X-mansion anymore. Looking around, she was instantly on guard as this place was unfamiliar. She summoned her twin claws, got out of the bed and blinked, realizing she wasn't in her normal clothes. Looking down, she could see that she was in a kimono. This got her thinking maybe she was in Japan as they were known to wear kimonos. She blinked, hearing someone groan just outside of the door. Slowly opening it, she blinked, spotting a 12-year-old boy with shoulder-length red and black hair without a shirt and covered in bruises. Naruto, having just finished a sparring session with the transformed Yugao, wondered what the hell was going on. All of the females he had sex with the other day had transformed, except Kurenai, as she had already been transformed. He had asked his mom what was going on, and she told him once his guest woke up and explained what was going on with her. Since then his growing harem had been taking up his time with Karin, doing so by constantly trying to get in his pants. Kurenai had been getting him to help her with her new attacks, mainly the ones involving plants. Anko had been getting him to teach her some new jutsu, and he had obliged and helped her create new ones. Kin had been demanding to listen to music and for him to be the subject to some music-based attacks. Naruto's ears were still ringing from her hard rock attack. Yugao instantly wanted more kenjutsu training and jutsu. He couldn't deny any of the requests, well, Karin's. But he mostly did that because he needed to train for the finals. He then titled his head to the side as a blade tried to stab him in the neck. He cut his eyes to the awakened girl and said, "I would ask why you just tried to kill me, but you just woke up in a dimension you're not familiar with and a place most likely foreign to you. So instead I'll ask for your name." The girl, wondering how Naruto had dodged, growled out, "Laura Kinney." Naruto nodded and said, "Now I'd suggest you calm down before one of the 5 females behind you get you like a greased pig 2 days before Thanksgiving." Laura, blinking, gained wide eyes as 5 cents were indeed behind her. She was about to move when a blade was held to her throat and a pissed Yugao hissed, "You better listen to Naruto-koi, or you'll be losing your head, Laura-san." Laura, sighing, took a seat across from Naruto and blinked as the 5 females sat down. Kurenai, dressed in a loose kimono with holes cut out so her bulb could be free, folded her arms under her sizable bosom, and said, "Now explain, Laura-san." Laura sighed deeply and then explained her story. By the time she was finished, most of the girls were crying, with Karin sniffling into Naruto's shirt. Naruto wondered how this was possible, but trying to soothe her anyway said, "Okay, that's the second most ed-up story I have ever heard. And ironically, I've heard a lot of ed-up shit in my life." Laura, curling an eyebrow, asked, "How is that possible when you're 12? Naruto, huffing, said, "This is the world of ninja and kunoichi, where giant beasts known as bijou are sealed into innocent children without their consent, and the children are treated like the demons. I've seen ed-up shit, I've heard ed-up shit, and I've done ed-up shit." He leaned back and said, "But through it all I'm still Naruto Uzumaki, son of Are, and the person who is going to change this world for the better." Karin nodded and said, "Yeah, Naruto-kun is gonna change the world for the better." Kim nodded and said, "Naruto-sama is going to set this world on fire and all that evil practice will burn." Kurenai, Anko and Yugao giggled and asked, you two do realize that Naruto-koi has to become Hokage before he can do any of that? Naruto nodded and blinked when the entire room glowed. Everyone in the room then vanished in a flash of golden light. They all appeared in Kushina's realm of the gods. Naruto blinked several times and asked, alright, that was cool. Kushina giggling said, I'm glad you think that, Sochi, as this is partly your home. Naruto, hearing the voice of his mom, turned into a rocket as he glomped on her. She, accepting his glomp, nuzzled his head and said, my precious little pharaoh. Naruto stayed like this for a little while before separating and asking, now will you explain to me what in the 9 fluffy tails of the Kyuubi is going on? Kushina nodding pulled Naruto down to her lap and to his shock shifted into her godly form, now being much larger than before. She motioned for everyone to take a seat and started to play with Naruto's hair as she said, alright, as you know, Sochi, you are my child and the ultimate poke girl. This makes you the first ever successful poke boy and the first child to ever be born from a legendary poke girl, which is by all rights and purposes impossible. But I was never one for staying in the lines of possible and impossible, and I have the feeling my child is following nicely in my footsteps. Naruto nodded to this. She continued with, now because of this you Naruto-chan have the inherent ability to transform his lovers and those in his harem into a poke girl. Not just any normal poke girl, mind you. No, when a woman is transformed in this way she becomes a new breed of the specific poke girls she transforms into. Naruto and the others blinked and Naruto asked, so what kind of poke girls are they? Kushina looking down at him said, reach into your front pocket. He blinked but did as she asked. He felt a cool metallic something in his pocket, pulled whatever it was out. He found himself holding an orange and black metallic rectangle. He curiously opened it, and gained wide eyes when his mom's voice, but with a metallic sound, said, Pokédex opened. Welcome Naruto Uzumaki, modern-day pharaoh and son of legendary poke girl. Oh, I am your Pokédex, Kushina Uzumaki. I will be providing you info on poke girls and anything else you need. Naruto with wide eyes looked at his mom with wide eyes and asked, what the heck and why would I need one of whatever this thing is? Kushina giggled and said, it's called a Pokédex and Tamers in the poke girl dimension world use it to skin poke girls to find out their power and species. You're gonna need one of these because I'm sending you and your harem so far to the poke girl world where you will train and add on to your harem. Now press the green button. Naruto, stunned, pressed the green button. The Pokédex hummed as it said, name Naruto Uzumaki. Hometown Konohagakure no Sato of Dimension 232. Harem NA. Parents Minato Namikaze and O. Status active. Age irrelevant as will transcend into God and become legendary. Skills many. All other info has been declared classified. Naruto blinked and asked the mom, what's a tamer, and why is my info classified? Kushina said, a tamer is a person whose primary job is to make sure that the feral poke girls of the world don't finish what Sasuke tried to do. In order to do this, they must tame other poke girls to fight for them, as the only effective way to fight a poke girl is with another poke girl. In order for a tamer to be official, they must pass a somewhat easy test to gain their basic license. In order to have more than 6 poke girls, a tamer must pass a more advanced test for a storage license. I already did this test for you along with the storage license test. Your pocket is a pocket dimension that has all of the items you need, including 1 million pokeballs of all types, colors and strengths, potions, books and even a healing machine. Naruto, hearing this, blinked and asked, what does tame mean? Kushina giggled and said, it means to have sex with a baby. Naruto hearing this turned really dark from the blush on his face. Laura, confused, asked, why am I here? Kushina, looking at her eyes, smiled and said, you are going to be my baby's first poke girl, or his starter poke girl. Laura screamed, what? Naruto shaking his head said, Mom, I just met her, there's no way in St. Peter's name I'm agreeing to that. Laura nodded. Kushina rolling her eyes said, don't worry, as I'm not sending you there instantly. No, I'm going to train all of you here for a while, and don't worry about time, as time in the realm of the gods moves much differently than the realm of the mortals. Naruto blinked and asked, how much different? Kushina giggled and said, I could train all 7 of you for 16 years in the realm of the gods, when in the mortal realm it would only be 1 month. All eyes widened and Yugao quickly realized that this place could make them legendary. Naruto, also realizing this, started to cackle evilly. Kushina giggled and said, so yes, I'm not gonna force you two together instantly. I'm gonna let you build romantic bonds through the absolute torture I'm gonna put you through. Naruto blinked and asked Ka-chan, you said torture when you meant training, right? It was her turn to cackle with evil. Naruto turned so white he was making Orochimaru look tan as he had the feeling he was about to be in for a world of pain. Hello Governor, it's the mighty Shevanum 13 here with the 10th chapter of Son of Ra. This chapter is the 2nd part of the prelims. In this chapter everyone learns of Naruto's sentient blades and Hinata reacts to the World Eater's presence. We also one of Naruto's main ultimate digivolutions, Crimson Angewoman, embodiment of love and defender of the heart. I made this form basically as a tip of the hat to both Kushina and Angewoman. Oh, and since this is the 10th chapter, here's a bonus scene for you guys. It's Naruto's first unofficial date with Yugao. There's gonna be a song in it. So do a review and let me know how you feel. Also our first guest female from another dimension, and it's X23 or Laura Kinney. Naruto was nervous as shit as after his training session with Yugao she had asked him to go to the bar she and her friends hung out at. Naruto had wanted to turn her down and go take a nice hot shower, but she had given him those damn puppy dog eyes. He had folded like an accordion. He accepted and went home. It was here that he took a shower and got dressed in the fancy clothes Kurenai and Iam had forced him to buy. He even put his hair into a loose ponytail. Looking in the mirror he blinked when his mom appeared and started putting things on him. He grabbed the golden anchor she was about to put around his neck and asked, "What are you doing?" Kushina giggled and said, "Make sure you look your best for your date with Yugao." Naruto blinked and asked, "What makes you think this is a date?" She placed twin golden earrings in his ears and said, "I'm your mother, my little pharaoh, and I know when little queens are interested in you." She, smiling as he looked as royal as she wanted him to look, said, "Now go to your date and sweep your purple-haired queen off of her feet." She then vanished, leaving a sweat-dropping Naruto, who grabbed his guitar and said, "This is weird and for some reason I don't have a single feeling about this." Yugao, sitting in the bar with Anko, Hana and Kurenai, was looking for Naruto, who was supposed to be here by now. Kurenai, taking a sip of her drink, said, "Relax Yugao, he'll be here in a little bit." Anko, downing her saucer of sake, said, "I don't see why you invited him to ladies' night anyway." Hana, nodding, said, "Yeah. This is our bi-weekly night where we get drunk and talk about our troubles." Yugao said, "Because Nai-chan invited us into his harem, and the only one who has gotten a date from him is Nai-chan." Kurenai nodded as Yugao was correct. All four females groaned as a familiar but annoying green-wearing nutcase walked in with Kakashi and Asuma. Asuma spotted Kurenai, smiled and said, "Hey Kurenai." She was about to tell him to buzz off when Naruto walked into the bar looking rather aggravated. Yugao spotted him and waved and said, "Over here Naruto-kun." He walked over to the group and sat down and said, "Troublesome fans." Kurenai, spotting his attire, asked, "Why so fancy Naruto-kun?" He scratched his head and said, "Ka-chan dressed me like this and even made me wear the fancy earrings." Yugao, beaming, said, "You look wonderful Naruto-kun." He shrugged and asked, "What am I gonna drink here?" Anko, setting a saucer of sake down, said this. Naruto, looking at it, slid it back to her and said, "That's more your style, foxy snake lady." She, smiling drunkenly, accepts the sake and says, "Thanks Naruto-kun." Such a gentleman. Hana, giving him a cup of tea, said, "Here Naruto-kun." He accepted the tea, downed in one, and asked, "So why am I here?" Kurenai said, "It's ladies' night, and we wanted our man to hang out with us." Naruto, hearing this, nodded and said, "Since I get the feeling I'm gonna be here for a while." Yugao nodded and said, "We're gonna be here until the bar closes for the night." Naruto groaned and asked, "How many of you are hopeless drunks?" All four females raised their hands and Naruto's eyebrows started twitching as he said, "Troublesome." 4 hours later, Naruto and 3 clones could be seen leading the 4 wasted females to their homes. Naruto, with a plastered Yugao leaning on him, said, "Come on Yugao-sensei, let's get you home." Yugao, giggling, said, "I don't want to go home unless it's with you Naruto-kun." Naruto's sweat dropped and tried to lead her to her apartment. It didn't work as she kept dragging her feet and insisting they go to his place. Naruto, signing, decided to just give in to her demands. Walking her to his home, he sweat dropped, spotting his clones leading the others into his home also. Shaking his head, he carried Yugao into his home and tried to force her to sleep in one of his guest rooms. She refused and demanded he let her sleep in his bed. He sighed once more and carried her into his room. His sweat drops grew, spotting the 3 kunoichi asleep in his bed. Shaking his head, he laid her down beside the trembling Anko. He leaned over to figure out why she was trembling and heard her start whimpering about someone abandoning her. He smiled when the others tried to comfort her with hugs. This proved that even in their sleep they cared for each other. What felt like 20 years passed by, and not only had Naruto and Laura bonded, but Laura had easily adjusted to her transformation. Kurenai had evolved into a Venus, and she now eclipsed Tsunade's legendary. Enko had reached her final form also and was now what was known as a basilisk or Sudoku. Naruto had a hard time keeping her from trying to bite him sometimes, as apparently it was his love and training that allowed her to reach said form. Yugao was sad to be in her final form, but his mom had given her a blessing increasing her power. She is also even more deadly with the sword now. The fact that she liked to cuddle with him when she thought he wasn't paying attention didn't bother him as much as it used to. Kin had also been sad to find out she couldn't evolve, but Naruto and Kushina had both blessed her. Of course, after Naruto had learned to do so, Karin didn't really care about evolving as long as she got to cuddle with her Naruto-kun. Something Naruto was thankful for was that he could keep Laura under control, even when she went into one of her rages. All of his girls except for Karin and Laura had their own Pokédex and were getting their own harems. They had already passed the test, both of the ones his mom had done for him. Karin and Laura were to be part of his Poke Girl harem. When not with him, which was highly unlikely, they were going to be safe here in the realm of the gods with his mom. Naruto himself had now created over 10,000 jutsu and had mastered all of his swords. He had also unlocked more digivolutions, including a few mega forms. Right now Naruto was walking down a dirt road with Karin and Laura on each side of him. The other girls were in the forest searching for Poke Girls for their harems. He had plans on taking on a gym but stopped realizing that Laura was most likely banned from gym battles and Karin wasn't really the battling type. Shaking his head, he turned and walked into the forest to find himself a Poke Girl. He didn't get far before he came across a rather sad-looking tigress. Naruto, looking at her once, could tell that she had been in a rather nasty battle and had most likely been abandoned by her cowardly tamer. Walking up to the poor thing, he softly asked, "Hey, are you alright?" The tigress, looking at him with hurt-filled orange eyes, said, "She abandoned me." Naruto, sighing, waved his hand and watched as the restraints she had on her along with the wounds she had vanished. He gently picked her up and, ignoring her shocked face, said, "My name's Naruto. What's yours?" The tigress said, "She never gave me a name. She said pathetic things like me didn't deserve one." Naruto scowled, already wanting to kick the tamer in the womb, and asked, "Would you like a name?" She blinked and asked, "Why would you do that? I'm not your Poke Girl." Naruto, laughing softly, said, "Everyone deserves a name." She nodded. He smiled as he walked out of the forest. Laura and Karin, standing there waiting, asked, "How about Siko?" The tigress, blinking, asked, "Why that name?" Naruto, feeling happy when Yugao arrives, said, "Because you remind me of the moon. Fierce in appearance, but sweet and protective in reality." The tigress blushed and asked, "How could you say such things? You don't even know me." Naruto, looking down at her with kind blue eyes, said, "Because I can just feel it." Siko, hearing this, nodded and asked, "How did you heal me and why do you feel so comfortable?" Karin, peering over at her over Naruto's shoulder, said, "He's the son of a legendary, and he's also the only successful Poke Boy." Siko felt her eyes widen as she asked, "Which of the legendaries is your mother?" Naruto gave Karin a plain look and said, "My mother is O." Siko gasped hearing this, as there had been rumors of O actually having a kid. She couldn't believe it was true. Siko then asked, "Are these two your Poke Girls?" Karin nodded and said, "Yep, my name is Karin Uzumaki and she's Laura Kinney." Laura simply nodded. Siko, spotting Yugao now nuzzling a Pidgey, asked, "What about her?" Naruto said, "No, but I guess you can, she's my girl." Yugao, hearing him say this, said, "Damn right I am." Siko, still curious, asked, "Why did you walk into the forest without either of your Poke Girls?" Naruto said, "I was looking for a Poke Girl to add to my harem, or family if you will. I was going to then train her and tame her to make her as powerful as possible before taking on the nearest gym." Siko, hearing this, looked down and said, "I'm sorry I stopped you. You can put me down, and I'll just dash." She was cut off by Naruto, who said, "Don't be sorry. I found you, and if you're willing, I'd like to make you part of the family." Siko had wide eyes and asked, "But why would you want me? I'm just a weak, low-level tigress. I'm sure you could easily find a stronger Poke Girl if you just let me go." Naruto, laughing once more, said, "Nah. I think I'll stick with you, and besides, you're not a weak, low-level tigress. You're a flower just waiting to bloom, and if you'd let me, I'd like to be the one who helps you bloom." Siko started to cry softly hearing this as she nodded and said okay. Naruto smiled and gently hugged Siko. Laura, Karin and the others quickly joined in, and Anko, nuzzling Sakiko's cheeks, said, "Welcome to our family, Kiko-chan. We'll love and protect you no matter what." Sakiko, feeling the love from her new family, cried even harder knowing that her new family would never abandon or forsake her. She promised to always do her best for them. 2 weeks later, and an evolved Sakiko was dominating a gym battle by herself. All of the love and training, plus taming her new family had given her, had allowed her to blossom. When Naruto had asked her if she wanted to evolve, she had answered yes. He had given her a diamond stone after asking her what she would like to become. Sakiko had responded with saber-toothed tigress, so Naruto had reached into his pocket and grabbed the required stone. Naruto, watching as Sakiko, easily wondered if Anko was actually training her bunny girl or just teasing the poor thing. He blinked when he was declared the victor. Smiling at Sakiko, he said, "Good job, Sakiko-chan. For doing so well, I'll make sure that Karin joins in on our next taming session." Sakiko beamed hearing the praise and cheered as she absolutely loved Karin and Naruto double-teaming her. Naruto watched as his girl walked back beside him, held out his hand and accepted the badge from the pathetic gym leader. Said person sighing asked, "Did you hear about that Arctic field that appeared a town over, or that yellow fox poke girl they found?" Naruto, having not heard of either event, said, "No, but I have now." "Thanks." He then turned around and Sakiko followed closely behind him. Walking out of the town, he felt the girls join him, and Karin asked him how did it go. Naruto, handing her the badge, said, "Our lovely Sakiko-chan had a clean sweep." Karin, smiling, nuzzled the beaming Sakiko and said, "I knew you could do it, Sakiko-chan. You're so badass." Laura, giggling, asked, "What now, Naruto-koi?" Naruto said, "First we investigate this rumor the gym leader just told me." Anko curiously asked, "What rumor?" Naruto was about to answer when Kushina's voice said, "You're going to investigate the rumor about the new fox poke girl first, Sochikun. I know what the cause of the Arctic field is. A town over, and she's waiting for you." Naruto blinked and asked, "What's so special about this fox poke girl?" Kushina said, "She's not a poke girl at all, Sochi. She's a Digimon that somehow got stranded in this world, and her name is Renamon. You need to rescue her before someone harasses her." Naruto, hearing this, instantly snapped into his serious mode and said, "All right then. Karin-chan, I need you to try and find this Renamon." Karin nodded, shut her eyes and started to search for an energy source similar to Naruto's when he digivolved. Finding it, she said, "Found it, Naruto-koi, and we need to move as she is surrounded by a bunch of lust-filled auras." Naruto nodded and vanished along with the rest of his group, heading to save Renamon. Arriving, he scowled, spotting a scared female anthropomorphic fox surrounded by a bunch of horny men. Renamon didn't even have any clothes on, so her B-cup and pink was exposed for all to see. Naruto, scowling, vanished, and the next thing the men knew was darkness as their heads fell from their shoulders. Naruto, appearing to ignore the dead men and not looking at Renamon's state, asked, "Are you okay?" Renamon, afraid, asked, "Why do you care?" Naruto said, "Because technically speaking I'm your god, so I need to make sure all of my subjects are alright." She blinked and asked, "What do you mean you're my god?" He sighed and asked Karin, "Laura, could you get her some clothes so I can explain?" Karin and Laura appeared to help Renamon get dressed, with Karin keeping herself from groping Renamon like she normally did when helping a member of their family get dressed. Renamon, once dressed, asked, "Can you explain now?" Naruto, looking at her now, said, "Sure, but we'll have to walk and talk as I still want to inspect that Arctic field event." Renamon, nodding, fell in step with the rest of the group, and Naruto started to explain how he was her god, and by the time he finished, everyone had noticed that it was significantly colder than before. Naruto, feeling snow falling down on his face, looked up and asked, "How are you doing, Kurenai and Anko?" Kurenai was shivering and Anko had released her charmlet to keep her warm. Naruto noticed that even Yugao was shivering and said, "Alright, all of you head back until this Arctic freeze is over." Yugao, shaking her head, said, "No, you can't do, Naruto-koi. I swore an oath to always protect you, and there's no telling what's behind this ice." Naruto turned to her and gave her a warm smile and said, "I know, Yugao-chan, but you guys are freezing, and as leader of our family it's my job to keep you guys warm." He looked at the trembling Tsukiko and said, "That includes you, Tsukiko-chan." Tsukiko, a thick fur jacket wrapped around her, asked, but who is going to keep you safe, Naruto-koi? Naruto pointed to the perfectly fine Karin and said, Karin isn't exactly a combat poke girl, but she's got my back. Laura blinked and asked, what about me? Naruto, gently touching her face, said, I can tell that you're cold, Lauraheim. Go back with the others and cuddle with Sekiko to get yourself warm. Me and Karin will be back before you know it. Renamon, blinking, asked, what about me? Naruto turned to her and said, oh, I'm letting you do whatever you want. If you want to explore this world, you're free to do so, just try to be more stealthy. Renamon, shaking her head, said, no thank you. I'm staying with you. Naruto blinked and asked, are you sure? Renamon nodded. He said, alright, then the rest of you go back and get warm. We'll be back before you know it. The others nodded reluctantly. Karin, leaning against Naruto and loving his warmth, was using her sensory skills to keep aware of their surroundings. Naruto was able to tell that it was getting colder the further they got into the Arctic field. He was already preparing to unleash a digivolution just in case things got hairy. Renamon was confused about why the two were acting like they were taking a casual stroll through the park. Karin, nuzzling Naruto, asked, Naruto-kun, can I skin you with your Pokédex? Naruto blinked and asked why. Karin looked at him with puppy dog eyes and said, because I want to know what you are. Naruto blinked and asked, mother never told us what I was, did she? Karin, shaking her head, said no. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his Pokédex and handed it to Karin, who scanned him. Renamon, curious, got closer to see what was going to happen. The Pokédex then pulled up an image of Naruto eating a bowl of fish and ramen. The info said, Naruto, the blessed paragon Miletid hunter, the lethal holy commander poke boy, type very near human, element water, flying dark magic, celestial, frequency extremely rare, unique, diet fish, water plants, fruits, meat, roll eye candy, long range support, sex battles, assassin, leader, general, tactician, luck bringer, celestially chosen, libido low to high, strong versus fire, ground, fighting, bugs, psychic, electric, ghost, dark, weak versus electric, ice, plant, attacks, aura barrier, aura of grace, aura of love, chilled arousal, Cupid's bow, dragon breath, hydro pump, hyper beam, phantom touch, probing tongue, water tower, dark goggles, dark blade, MKI, dark shield, dark bomb, light drain, sketch, absorb, energy blade, power bolt, teleport, heal, sleep powder, drain, ingest, aura of command, aura of menace, heavenly fire, lightning, enhancements, levitation, enhanced strength, X11, enhanced endurance, X8, enhanced agility, X7, affinity, dragon, magic, youthful, longevity, recovery, enhanced vision, X4, enhanced olfactory, X4, aura immunity, active, disease resistance, reduced feral, intuitive aptitude, leadership, sleepless, 324, innate knowledge, tactics, enhanced memory, incorruptible, enhanced intelligence, lucky, healthy, alpha presence. O gods above, it has been discovered that a legendary was successfully able to conceive and birth a child. Not just any child, but the very first poke boy. This poke boy is the son of O, the legendary love goddess poke girl. He miraculously started off as a sickly and hideous feeble ass that was bullied by other poke girls, until one day his mother told him of her endless love for him, and that no matter what he looked like she would love him. This invoked an evolution in the boy, and he became what looked like a male Miletid, but with some noticeable differences, like for instance the shoulder-length red and black hair that was as soft as a baby's bottom. His eyes were a lovely blue that would shift into a glowing electric yellow. Unlike Miletid, he wasn't arrogant, nor did he flaunt his new sex appeal. Instead, he reminded everyone of the deadly nature of the original poke girls. He decimated everyone that dared challenge him, but also showed a mercy only a pure-hearted human could have. His human nature allowed him to become a poke girl tamer, and as we speak he's roaming around the world collecting poke girls for his harem. He already has an ab named Karin Uzumaki, and a gun named Laura Kinney. He also has a saber-toothed tigress known as Sekiko. The leagues are keeping an eye on him, not because of his supposedly violent nature, but due to several of the unsavory teams becoming interested in him. Thankfully, he hasn't come across any of them, and seems to be doing just fine. He's also a very strong person, as he's been shown to be able to break trees in half with a punch, and his speed has been shown to be as fast as a Cheetora. A startling piece of information has been revealed by his mother. Her son is going to be a legendary as he is her child, and he's bound to be a legend in his own right. Since he's the only successful poke boy, no one has been able to study his ways. He does have some actions that have been recorded. For instance, he doesn't like bullies and hates the thought of harassment. His most deadly attack isn't listed as no one has lived to write it down. Some believe it's the full power of the sun brought down, while others believe it to be the divine wrath of a goddess. All that can be said is that this attack is not to be underestimated. Naruto blinked and said, "Well, damn." Karin giggled and said, "You're so awesome, Naruto-kun." Naruto, rolling his eyes, said, "I know this, Karin-chan." Suddenly both people stilled and Renamon could feel a very strong presence nearby. Naruto and Karin both started to scan the area. Naruto then looked up and a blush hit his face, spotting the legendary poke girl Arant slowly floating down. She looked at them with her cold blue eyes and asked, "Why are you here?" Naruto said, "We had heard there was an Arctic field that had appeared out of nowhere. So we decided to check it out." Arant, narrowing her eyes, asked, "And?" Naruto shrugged and said, "Like I said, I just wanted to check it out. We'll be taking our leave now." He turned to do so when a huge gust of snow and wind stopped them from leaving. He turned as Arant said, "You will be going nowhere, son of O." Naruto's sweat drops and asks, "How did you do?" She snorted and said, "Your scent smells like her and my sister Moltitz." Naruto asked, "So you can't let your nephew go, right?" She narrowed her eyes and said, "No, as many of us legendaries have wanted to have poke kits or children of our own for years now, and my sister and O just happened to share the only ever successful poke boy who is also the child of a legendary, which is impossible. No, I have to find out what's so special about you and if possible make you my mate so that I can replicate what my sister has achieved." Naruto asked, "Are you saying that if I want to leave here I have to defeat you?" She nodded and said, "I doubt you can do so with your current harem." Naruto snorted and said, "You're right, as Karenheim is not suited for combat, and Renamon doesn't even know what's going on." He, ignoring the smug look that appeared on her face, said, "But I don't need Karin or Renamon for this." Arant, looking at him, asked, "Just why not?" Naruto popped his joints as he surged his Enten chakra through his body and felt the frozen land around him start to melt as he said, "Because I've got a pocket full of sunshine and I'm about to unleash it on you." He then vanished and Arant was barely able to avoid being punched in the jaw by a fist coated in black, being able to tell that these flames were much hotter than any she has come across before. She kicked into the air, swung her wings and unleashed a storm of her feathers. Naruto, feeling this coming, snapped out with his chakra and literally melted the feathers. He then took a deep breath in and to the shock of Arant unleashed a huge stream of flames. She dodged a beam of ice at him. He literally teleported away from the beam of ice and sent several balls of fire at her. She was able to dodge and counter 8 of them, but the last 4 hit her. She winced from both the intensity of the flames and the force behind the attacks. Shaking her head, she decided to stop holding back and tried to freeze him. Naruto, being able to feel this, just cranked up the heat behind his Enten. Neither knew that another poke girl was watching their little battle. This poke girl was one barely known by most people but was legendary. This watcher had eyes that shine of solid gold on a very canine face with no mouth to speak of, and with tall ears atop her head. She stood 6 feet 8 inches. The anthropomorphic jackal woman's true physical strength is finally revealed, yet still maintaining an obviously feminine and alluring frame. The definition of her muscles and firm and rounded D-cups are accentuated by purest, darkest ebony fur. Her eyes, now with dark pupils, hold a fierce gaze and are outlined with a brilliantly shining color of gold. This being poke girl is the legendary Horus Hound August. She was also the physical manifestation of the Shinigami in the poke girl world. She had, after learning from Kushina that Naruto and his group had come to this world to make a move on said boy. She had been following him for some time now, and had planned on approaching him when Arant made an appearance. Anubis wanted to scream and kick Arant away, but knew she just had to be patient. Plus, watching her future husband take on a legendary was very arousing. Naruto, dodging yet another attack from the now pissed Arant, decided to stop playing with the legendary freezing poke girl. Jumping back, he summoned Grey Sword and said, "Alright, time to stop playing." He then summoned a huge amount of chakra that literally started to shake the planet. Arant gained wide eyes feeling this and screamed, "What are you doing?" He didn't respond as he felt Karin created a barrier around herself and Renamon. Naruto, now that the two were safe, jumped very high into the air and soon broke through the clouds. He now high above the earth felt his sword start glowing from his power. Smiling, he said, "Here we go." He then swung down with his sword, creating a massive arch of pure Enten chakra heading directly for the gaping Articant. He then said, "Kenjutsu Arch of Blazing Demise Jutsu." Articant, shaking her head, knew that this attack was not to be played with. She gathered all of her power, sent her most powerful attack at him, and felt the two collide. For about 5 minutes the two titanic attacks clashed for dominance, but to her shock and horror her attack was finally destroyed by his. The attack only slightly weakened from hers hit like the foot of Godzilla on a small ramen stand. A bright light erupted from the attack and smoke filled the air. When the smoke finally cleared and beaten and defeated Articant was laid out on the ground with a happy smile on her face. Naruto, landing and tucking his sword into its seal, walked over and asked, "Why are you smiling like you just won the lottery?" She giggled and said, "I finally found my one true love. The one who is destined to be my only tamer and master." Naruto blinked and asked, "What do you mean?" She laughed softly, and ignoring the wave of pain it caused her, said, "Take out a pokeball and capture me, Naruto-kun, so I can be a part of your harem." Naruto understood now, nodded and pulled an ice blue pokeball and threw it to Articant. She was captured in a bright blue light, and the ball didn't even hint at shaking. He smiled as he picked the ball up. Gently holding it, he said, "Welcome to the family, Hikari Heim." He was then glomped by Karin as the ice field vanished. Karin, nuzzling him, said, "You were so amazing, Naruto-kun. You were just like a superhero with no fear." Naruto chuckled and said, "Thanks, Karin Heim. Now come on, let's go meet up with the others so they can meet Hikari, and she can get healed. Plus I'm pretty sure Anko has most likely driven everyone nuts by now." Karin giggled and said, "Yes, she most likely has, and Laura and Kinchan are seconds away from killing her and blaming on a rogue team." He laughed, and both walked off the shell, shocked and very aroused, Renamon walking closely behind them. Anubis, licking her lips, said, "He will be mine." Yugao was still awake as she said, "Play a song for us, Naruto-kun." A few months later, in the Poke Girl dimension, Naruto could be seen leaning back on the rails of a ship as he and his harem sailed towards the Dark Continent. Naruto was going there because he needed to finish out his harem. So far he had Laura, Karin, Tsukiko, Hikari, and the recent addition to his harem, Makavity, otherwise known as Hecate. The cleric of Chaos Poke Girl had come to him a month after Hikari had joined the family. He and Renamon had been taking down a rather large group of Team Rocket goons, and Naruto had gotten bored, so he had started combining his Hayatan and Mokutan and turning the fools and their Poke Girls into eternally frozen plants or trees. Renamon had digivolved into Cubamon, and had taken down a great number of the goons when Makavity had shown up and started to kill the rest. Naruto had been confused until Makavity had started bombarding him with questions. Naruto had rolled his eyes and answered as many questions as he felt like answering, which included if he thought that he had the ability to get other legendaries pregnant. He didn't know the answer to this one, so he shrugged. Apparently it was good enough for her, as she had snatched one of his pokeballs from him and had put herself in it. He and his Renamon, along with the one still alive and awake Rocket Grunt, had blinked when she did this, and the Rocket Grunt had gasped when she stayed captured. Naruto had then decapitated the grunt and picked up her pokeball. He had, after meeting back up with the girls, had checked into a poke center and let her out of her ball. She had glomped on him, which was rather strange considering how tall she was. His face was basically buried in her. He had, after managing to get himself free from her, he had sat down and asked her some questions of his own. Mainly, why in the hell did she just join his harem? She had purred and explained that she wanted to bear his kids and that she'd pull her own weight if he allowed her into his harem. Naruto had looked her in the eyes and told her sure, whatever. She had cheered and then started a taming session that somehow ended up as an orgy, involving Anko and her team, Kurenai and her little tit, Yugao and her Pidgeotto and Sphinx, Kin and her milk tit and Geogal, plus Karin, Laura and Hikari. Naruto had been tired the next morning, so he decided to watch Anko take on a gym with her Horizard, Mac and her Shinryu, Charlie. Naruto had no clue how Anko had a full harem before he did, but didn't really care as her team was part of his family and were very loyal. While he had been watching her do so, he had asked his mom who she thought could round out his harem. Kushina, without missing a beat, had said Sekmet. Naruto had been confused, so he had pulled out his Pokédex and looked up said Poke Girl. He had whistled as she did sound like the powerhouse to round off his team. So after congratulating Anko and her girls on their win, he had asked Macavity if she could locate Sekmet for him. She nodded and told him she would for a price. Naruto had already guessed that she wanted a taming session for the info, and he was right. So after creating a nice boat with the other girls and packing enough food for them all and some gear to catch any food they may need on the trip, they set out with Macavity guiding the boat. Karin was actually the captain of the little ship which Naruto got to name. He had named it the SSRV Ramen. All of his girls had sweat dropped hearing this, and Karin had said he was addicted to the most idiotic thing. Naruto had laughed and stepped onto the ship. The others were doing various things on the ship. Kurenai was sunbathing in her modified kimono while Little Tit rubbed suntan lotion into her skin. Anko was in the quarters and the brains out of her harem. Yugao was in just a tight pair of pants as she practiced her sword styles. Kin was playing a game of chess with Laura, both girls in bikinis. Siko was watching Yugao's moves with hearts for eyes. Hikari was down in the freezer he had created just for her, most likely drinking a cold beverage. Naruto, laying his head back, blinked when Macavity plopped down in his lap. Groaning, he looked her in the eyes and asked what's wrong Hekide. She nuzzled his face and said Naruto-kun, Karin says we're approaching another ship. She says they're pirates and wants you to take care of them. Naruto, hearing this, sighed and got up while switching places with a clone. Walking to the front of the ship, he summoned Aljuin and drew the mighty blade. He, shutting his eyes and summoning his godly chakra, felt all of the eyes on the ship set on him, and even felt Anko stop the taming session. He slowly opened his eyes and said Kenjutsu, downfall of the arrogant King Jutsu. He then unleashed an attack so powerful and devastating the very ocean trembled, and the sky darkened. The incoming pirate ship didn't have a snowball's chance in hell as the attack slammed down on it. Naruto, sealing Aljuin back up, turned around, easily ignoring the screams of anguish of the crew. Macavity, with wide eyes, asked, what in my fluffy ass? Renamon, having seen her godlover do things like this many times, said Naruto-kun is literally a stone's throw away from being a god of his own. Moves like that will soon be a signature. Macavity turned to the others, and the smiling Hikari asked, is what the yellow talking fox said true? Hikari nodded and said, yes Hekide. Our Tamer is almost powerful enough to be a god. Naruto was about to return to his seat when Yugao said, Naruto-kun, spar with me. Naruto turned to her and said, spar with one of my clones Yuchan. I'm trying to think of a game plan for the Dark Continent. Yugao pouted and grabbed one of Naruto's clones, but not before saying, you owe me a taming session later Naruto-kun. He sat down, shut his eyes and started coming up with various plans, some simple, others complex. They would arrive 2 days later, and Naruto was instantly on guard. With good reason, as he felt eyes on him, and he didn't like being watched. Laura was in front of him on guard from any ambush attacks from the supposed sanctuary. Karin was leaping through the trees along with the other kunoichi from his world as they watched his back from above. Tsukiko was behind him, also on guard, as she wouldn't let anything harm her tamer. Hikari was flying overhead ready to unleash an Arctic nightmare on anyone trying to attack her tamer. Hekide was skipping happily beside him as she was sure Sanctuary wouldn't attack them. So far they hadn't come across any threats. But the feeling of being watched hadn't gone away. Suddenly Laura screamed, something is approaching fast. Naruto, hearing this, quickly summoned Shinkaku Ketsuki. Tsukiko got ready to attack. Naruto, feeling something coming, easily dodged what looked like a root. He, slicing through this root, looked up and found an elf standing in a tree. He then dodged an attack from 2 Chitora. Tsukiko quickly engaged one of them while Laura attacked the other. This left Naruto with the elf, who said, leave humans as you have set foot in an elf sanctuary. Naruto, activating his Mokutan chakra, said, how about no and you? He then stomped his foot down, and the elf gasped when large tree roots burst from the ground around him and shot towards her. She tried to dodge, but the roots were too fast, and she ended up ensnared. The 2 Chitora were also ensnared by the roots. Naruto, looking the elf in the eyes, asked, who sent you? She glared and said, I'll never tell you, human. Naruto, hearing this, asked, really, what if I set fire to this entire forest? She snorted and said, you don't have a fire poke girl to do so. Naruto chuckled and said, I don't need a fire poke girl. I can do it myself. She and her minions laughed and said, you're right, human. This forest is protected by an elven court, and no human has the power to burn an entire forest. Naruto chuckled and said normally you'd be correct, but you see I'm no mere human. He then surged his Enten chakra through his body and watched as the 3 wild poke girls started to sweat. He then gained a smirk that made Anko watching from the trees shiver in lust, and said my name is Naruto Uzumaki and I've got a fire in my eyes. Shivenom, I've got a fire in my eyes. I'm burning brighter than the sunlight. I mean Fireflight song, look it up. He then clenched his fist as the 3 poke girl blanched when it became coated in black flames. The elf trembling asked, what are you? Hecate appearing eating an apple said the son of O and my Tamer. Naruto watched as all 3 poke girls turned so white they made Orochimaru look tan as the now terrified elf asked, why are you here, Naruto-sama? Naruto furrowed an eyebrow and asked, why did I go from human to Naruto-sama? Achitora said Lady Sekmet was informed by Lady O that her child was coming to add her to his harem. Naruto blinked and asked, really, then why did you 3 attack me? The other Chitora whimpering said, we weren't told what you looked like. Naruto blinked as this did make sense. He sighed and asked, where is Sekmet? The elf said she's waiting for you with her most powerful guards in the plains of the Dark Continent. Naruto nodded and said my roots will let you free once my group is 3 miles away. Sensing her fear rising said, don't worry, my group moves fast, and will move even faster now that we know where Sekmet is. The elf's eyes widened when Naruto and his group actually turned into blurs as they moved towards the plains. Not long later the 3 poke girls were freed and the elf said, there goes Lady Sekmet's match. A day later Naruto and his group arrived in the plains and Naruto's eyes bulged out spotting Sekmet surrounded by 6 very powerful lionesses. She was a very tall dark-skinned woman reminding him of his mom's god form. Hell, she even had long black hair. Macavity giggled and asked, like what you see, Naruto-kun? Naruto shaking his head said, okay, mom has very good taste in women, that's for sure. Yugao and the others all snorted and said like mother like son. When he heard this was confused and asked, what do you mean? Kurenai giggled and said, you also have excellent taste in Naruto-kun as you did in picking all of us. He blinked and said, oh right? He shrugged and then walked out on the plain, Macavity skipping beside him. Laura was about to follow when her nose caught the scent of a super-powered human. She shifted her eyes to Anko and saw the woman nod at her. Both females then took off towards the scent, along with Kin. The others went with Naruto as he walked towards Sekmet. Naruto, spotting one of the lionesses getting ready to attack him, already had a plan for her. He waited until the poke girl pounced before he stomped his foot down and smirked as thick roots wrapped around the shocked lioness and forced her to the ground. He noticed how the other 5 instantly noticed this and got ready to attack him. Rolling his eyes he said, Mokutan, far reaches of the lonely goddess Jutsu. The lioness didn't even see it coming when several large roots shaped like human hands wrapped around them and pinned them to the ground. This finally got Sekmet's attention as she set her eyes on him. She spotted Hecate, asked, who is this human you have brought here, Macavity? His chaos-driven poke girl giggled and said, I'm here with my Tamer to add you to his harem. Sekmet blinked several times and asked, you have a Tamer? Macavity nodding, glomming Naruto ignoring that his head was again lodged into her, said, this is my wonderful Tamer right here and he's super special. Naruto, using the replacement jutsu with Karin, shook his head and said, Hecate, you really need to stop doing that. Karin, getting herself free, wiped her bloody nose away and said, I don't mind when she does that, Naruto-sama. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, of course you don't. I always switch places with you and for some reason you love the big bouncy which Hecate has. Macavity giggling said she likes them because most of your girls have a big bouncy face. Naruto was about to argue when Yugao said, she's right, you know. We do have a big bounce, with Nai-chan and Hecate-chan having the largest pair. Naruto's sweat dropped and was again about to say something when Sekmet asked, did you say his name is Naruto? Everyone blinked and he nodded. She smiled and said, you're the one I've been waiting for. Naruto asked, what do you mean? She laughed and said, your mother told me that you'd come to add me to your harem and I decided to wait for you. Naruto, hearing this, asked, so you're willing to join my family? She nodded and said, yes, but only if you defeat me in battle. Naruto blinked and asked, you want to fight with me? Sekmet nodded and said, yes. As your mother informed me that you were from a different dimension where men and women fight each other with amazing powers. She gained a predatory look in her eyes and said, she also showed me your battle with Arant over there. Naruto asked, and? She licked her lips and said, it made me want you, and no matter how many of the tamers I have here to help keep my girls tame, I took to bed my inner fire wouldn't go out as I could only see you. Naruto curled an eyebrow and said, sounds like you got it bad for me. She nodded and said, my loins hunger for you. But only if you prove yourself worthy as a fighter will I allow myself to be tamed by you. Naruto nodded and said, alright, we'll fight after Laura, Anko and Kin come back from wherever they went. Yugao blinked and asked, how did you do? Naruto holding up his hand said, my connection with all of you allows me to feel when one or more of you aren't with the group. Kurenai blinked and asked, does that mean that you can feel what we feel? Naruto shaking his head said, no, but I can make educated guesses about that. What it means is that no matter how far or in what dimension you girls are, I'll always be able to find you and if you're in need of it, rescue you. Karin, hearing this, gained hearts for eyes and said, you're so dreamy, Naruto-kun. Like a knight in shining armor. Naruto rolled his eyes knowing that Karin was going to react like that. He blinked when his 3 missing girls appeared holding a woman with long platinum blonde hair that was the same color of ice. Her skin was pale, like none he had ever seen before. She had a body like Kurenai before the transformation. She was dressed in a dark blue shoulderless top that hugged her like it was skin tight. She was of course unconscious and Naruto could see the cuts and gashes caused by Laura and Kin. Naruto looked Anko in the eyes and asked, was she hostile? Anko nodded and said, she tried to freeze us. She then shivered and said, I'm still cold from that bitch. Naruto, hugging her and applying a thin layer of Enten chakra to his body, smiled when Anko purred and said, ooh, so warm. He ended the hug and turned to Sekmet, who asked, are you ready now? He, shedding his shirt and jacket, asked Laura, do you think I should take off the gravity and weight seals and should I use my swords? Laura and the others, all except for Renamon, Hekide, Hikari and Siko, nodded. Naruto, feeling the nods, released the gravity and weight seals before asking which two. Kurenai quickly before the others could answer said Aljuin and Grey Sword. Nodding, he unsealed both weapons but blinked when he heard his mom say, baby, you might need to digivolve for this battle as Sekmet is nothing to play with. Hell, if I had to give her a rank I'd rank her a triple S rank. Naruto, hearing this, whistled and asked what level? Kushina, giggling, said, I believe it's time for the readers to witness your first Mega Digivolution, and Lady Shivenom, please make it a good one. Naruto's sweat dropped as his mom had just broken the 4th wall. Shaking his head, he dropped into his 2-sword stance, ignoring the fact that Yugao had a camera rolling to record this fight. Sekmet with glowing eyes shifted into battle form and said, this is gonna be exciting. She then charged towards Naruto, who dashed forward to counter her. The ground shook when her claws clashed with the blade of Aljuin. She swung with the other hand and watched as Naruto countered with the Grey Sword. Naruto then kicked her in the head, jumped into the air and, swinging both mighty swords, said, 2-sword style bite of the Nibi. Sekmet gained wide eyes when the monstrous jaws of a flaming cat appeared and tried to bite down on her. She rolled to the side and watched as the attack burned the ground where she had been. Laughing, she leapt into the air to attack Naruto, who rolled out of the way. This is what she had wanted though, as she with her tail slapped both of his swords away. Naruto, landing without either sword, blurred through hand signs. He slammed his hands on the ground and said, combination Jutsu Mokuton and Enten. Valley of the Damned Jutsu. Eyes widened and jaws dropped when the ground was ripped open by burning roots that tried and failed to latch onto Sekmet. Naruto ignored this as he blurred through even more hand signs. He landed on the rabbit and said, combination Jutsu Hayatan and Mokuton, shards of the Motherland Jutsu. Sekmet gasped when the roots exploded into millions of gorgeous shards. All eyes widened when Naruto smirked and said, combination Jutsu Bakuton, Mokuton, Enten and Hayatan, explosion of the primordial god Jutsu. Jaws dropped when the shards literally started exploding with enough force to create small holes in the space-time continuum. Ara gaped, not knowing that her baby had this kind of power or that he had access to the explosion release. Sekmet, flipping into the air, unleashed a roar causing the bubbles to vanish and then tried to slam down on Naruto, who flipped out of the way just in time. She, not letting up, tried to slice him up. He managed to pull out a kunai and counter every slash. She then tried her seed bomb on him. He countered with a very powerful stream of fire, followed by an earth chakra enhanced punch. This punch sent her flying. She, flipping, unleashed a legendary Leonis's roar. Naruto, creating a barrier around himself, felt the barrier shake from the power behind the roar. Shaking his head and dropping the barrier, he was bent over and then launched into the air from a deadly pounce. Naruto in the air, felt his bones creak from the attack he had just been hit with. Shaking his head, he jumped even higher into the air and sent several clones to do as his mother told him. Sekmet, knowing that she was facing clones, wondered what Naruto was doing. Off to the side recording watching the battle, Kurenai rubbing the back of the recent addition to her harem, a milk tin named Hinata, said Naruto-kun is about to digivolve. Enko ing on her horizon said I wonder what level he's going to be. Yugao, nuzzling the recent addition to her harem, a hound she had named Hitomi, said most likely a mega. Kin, bouncing in the lap of her Kangaskhan named Taylor, said Naruto-sama is so amazing. Laura, looking down at the now awake woman, said of course he is. Karin, groping Tsukiko's and nibbling on her neck, asked what are we gonna tell the people back in our home dimension about our transformations. All of the females from said dimension all blinked. Hikari, drinking a cold beverage and ignoring Hekida's constant s of pleasure, asked why did you name your milk tit Hinata? Kurenai, hearing this question, blushed while Enko giggled and said because Nai-chan just realized that her sisterly feelings for her student have blossomed into romantic feelings, but said student is now in a relationship with another of her students. Kurenai's blush darkened and she sent a glare at Enko, who snickered. Yugao, answering Karin's question, said we say it's a blessing from Ra or Naruto-kun gave us his bloodline when we officially laid claim to him. Karin nodded and turned to Hekida, who was in the epic battle she was witness to, and asked is this pleasurable to you? Hekida, nodding with hearts for eyes, said this is the most amazing and pleasurable thing I have ever seen. The woman still watching the clones battle Sekmet asked what the hell is going on. Laura, looking down at her, said our lover is battling a legendary trying to add her to his harem. The woman, giving her a plain look, asked what? Kin, sighing, it'll be explained later. The woman, nodding, blinked when an immense power could be felt and a female voice said Digivolution in progress. All eyes turned to the sky hearing this. Naruto, having once again tapped into the light of Digivolution, was now wrapped in a large cocoon of light and energy. His form started to warp and bend as it changed. The form then grew as it gained height. The form was soon 9 feet tall. It then gained 4 pairs of arms. The form then gained a feminine, but also feline form. Long thick hair grew from its skull that quickly took a form with half of it over the face. Thick feline ears appeared in said hair. What looked like 2 eyes formed on the visible side of the face, with one eye being vertically above the other. Thick golden armor appeared that started with a golden bustier. This armor formed until it stopped just below her stomach. A silver-scaled skirt appeared then, and framed her hips. A pair of golden tights appeared on the legs and the scale pattern returned. No shoes appeared, but the clawed human-like feline feet could be seen. Behind this figure what looked like one long tail could be seen. This was proven wrong when the single tail transformed into 10 luxurious tails. The light then vanished and Kushina's voice said Naruto digivolve into Phantom Juneka, personification of lust, embodiment of greed and fiend of pleasure. Naruto in his new form sweat dropped and asked what the hell mom? Ra giggled and said don't worry Sochi. This isn't your main mega digivolution, just a little diversion. Naruto, sighing, dropped down to the ground, ignoring how almost all eyes widened comically and Hekida gained hearts for eyes. Kurenai, with a blush on her face, asked how does your new form feel about Naruto-kun? Naruto, giving her a plain look, said it feels like I'm a Nekomata with 10 tails. Yugao and Hekida giggled and said I think it's hot. Naruto rolled his eyes and turned to Sekmet and said I apologize in advance for this, but I'd rather not be in this form for too long. Naruto's eyes then glowed and he vanished. The next thing anyone knew, Sekmet was high in the air. Naruto then appeared behind her with the gray sword in his hands. The sword actually shifted into a very specific whip that Enko was known to use. It was a cat with 9 tails. Naruto letting this whip around Sekmet, and watching as it slithered into the legendary poke girls most places said pleasure of the afterlife. Sekmet stood no chance in hell as her pleasure sensor was hit by 10,000 volts of electricity, and she was brought to the most mind-shattering orgasm in all of the dimensions. This orgasm forced her back into her human form. She was then gently set down as Naruto returned back to his normal form. He walked over to her with a pokeball and gently pressed it against her forehead. She went inside of the ball, and it didn't shake once, meaning she was captured without any trouble. Smiling, he picked it up and said finally my first team is complete. I even have a name for her. She'll be Celine. He then walked over to the group to notice the woman. Before looking at him with wide eyes he asked so she's awake. They all nodded and he was about to say something when he was approached by Hecate, who said, I need to be tamed now, Naruto-kun. His sweat dropped and asked who else. His sweat drop grew when almost everyone raised their hands. The only person who didn't raise their hands was Killer Frost, and that's because she had no clue what it meant to be tamed. He shook his head and said ing nympho. 2 days later, and Naruto smiled as Killer Frost, after explaining everything and having things explained to her, had jumped his bones when he had informed her that he thought she was badass. She had then, like the others, transformed into a poke girl. She was Wendigo and was Kin's 4th poke girl. Somehow Killer Frost had bonded with the both of them and wanted to stay with the group. Naruto already had 6 poke girls, so Kin had taken her into her harem and Killer Frost had adjusted easily. Right now the group was on their way to a buzz hive that Selene had told them about. Selene, like Hecate and Hikari, was walking behind or beside him. He looked at said girls and smiled as he had applied the gravity and weight seals onto them. Hikari had easily adjusted to the weight seals, but the gravity seals were kicking her ass. Hecate hadn't adjusted to either seal yet, and Selene was literally dragging behind them. Renamon had decided to go to the realm of the gods. Naruto blinked when Karin groaned and asked, why are we all going to the buzz? Naruto chuckled and said because Kurenai wants a buzz and Yugao wants a buzz queen. Laura, agreeing with her harem sister, said that does not explain why we're all going. Naruto said we're all going because we're family and families stick together. Karin huffed and said I really hate Naruto-kun. Laura nodded and said I also. Naruto, shaking his head, said don't worry, you two, we'll be in and out in no time. Kin said actually Naruto-sama, I've decided to make a killer my 5th poke girl. Naruto, hearing this, sweat dropped and said never mind. You two can go join Renamon in the realm of the gods, as it's about time for us to return anyway. The 2 girls nodded and Kurenai pouted as she said I only have 2 poke girls, Naruto-kun. Naruto, shaking his head, said you have 3 right now, as Ka-chan has 1 in the realm of the gods for you. Kurenai heard this, beamed at first until she said I'll still only have 4. Naruto, shaking his head, said no, as I'm pretty sure we're being followed by a certain elf we've met. Kurenai, hearing this, smiled as that would make 5 and she knew she could get someone from their dimension as her 6th and final poke girl. Truthfully, she was hoping for Hinata or maybe a branch member of the Hyuga. Kin said this will be my 5th and Kushina-sama has my 6th. Yugao said 4th and Kushina-sensei most likely have my 5th. Anko, having a full harem, giggled and said me and Naruto-kun have full harems and my lovely Mackenzie or Mac was given to me by Kushina-chan. Yugao, pouting, asked how come she got her poke girl from Kushina-sensei before we did. Naruto shrugged and said I have no clue, but my guess is Anko pestered the shit out of mom until she was so annoyed she caved. Anko beamed and said yup. Everyone's sweat dropped, and the sweat drop grew when Kushina said you damn right she pestered me until I was ready to transport her to space and cackle with glee as she slowly suffocated. Naruto said okay, ignoring that Ka-chan said she wanted to kill Anko. Let's get this job done and get back to our dimension. Everyone nodded as Kurenai said it's a good thing we're right in front of the buzz hive. Naruto, unsealing Aljuin and Shinkikyuketsuki, said alright, let's get this done.